Welcome, one and all, to yet another episode of WhickTV, a cross-ideological space where we come together to talk about issues both political, cultural, from the silly to the serious. And today we have a discussion for you in honor of Dane Cook's marriage to his 24-year-old bride, which he started dating 6 years ago. We will be talking about age gaps in relationships. Dane Cook's 51, by the way, right now.
Jesus.
So, quite the age gap there. Serendipitously, his marriage fell on the day of my panel, so it's going to be a useful lens to look at this through. But I wanted to talk today about power dynamics through the lens of age. Does someone coming from a large age differential from someone have power over them, and in what direction? Does age gaps make it harder to have a relationship? We're going to be talking about all that and more. But before we begin, I want to give my lovely panelists a chance to have their opening thoughts on the matter, introduce themselves, etc. And we are going to start with last minute replacement, Ice Beans, who, again, grateful for you being here. Rora got sick. She got COVID, so she couldn't make it. But Ice Beans is
my.
here.
Oh no.
Yeah.
It's rough.
What's your
Well,
thoughts?
thank you for inviting me. You should have probably gone with me last because I'm probably sort of a centrist on this. I tend to take these cases on more or less a case by case basis. For the most part, if a couple is happy, then and they're both of legal age, then it's kind of whatever floats your boat. I do think that significant age gaps can have like logistical issues. They can have issues where you have missing shared experiences. I do think that there is some likelier, like it's more likely that there would be controlling power dynamics going on there. And then of course you have like the general social pushback from all of it. But yeah, legally speaking, any adult is free to take all of that on. I am open to changing my mind about it. Sorry, it's not the spicy one way or the other.
It's your honest opinion. That's what we value here. I guess I would ask, right? Is this something you'd advise your friend if you had a young friend and a 60-year-old was looking to be in a relationship with them? What would you tell your friend? Would you say go for it? Or watch
So that
out?
would be so that would be the case by case basis, right? So if for me, if I can observe some couple in real life and like see how they treat each other and see how things like that. If it's where I can speak to that person, right? Or if this was my own daughter or some shit like that. But yeah, I would basically just make sure that they're happy and that they're not in some kind of weird power dynamic, and then yeah, go for it.
Thank you for being here. Really appreciate you. Next up, we have Julie. Hi.
Hi. Sorry. Fuck.
Okay.
Hold on, give me a minute. I think age gap relationships, I think when you're like 30s and up, I think it's fine, but people in their early 20s still have a lot of learning to do before they get into like serious relationships and stuff. They have a lot of experiences they still need to have, I think, before people should settle down and have a family. I think, yeah, I think most people would agree someone in their early 20s being with someone in their late 30s is different than someone in their early 30s being someone in their late 40s. So I think after 30, I don't really care. But like, I'm 25 right now. If one of my friends came up to me and was like, I'm dating someone that's 42, I'd be like, girl, come on. What?
Okay, well, I guess we'll get into it as we go. 𝕾𝖍𝖎𝖙, thanks for muting yourself. I was confused whose dogs those were, but we figured that out. Appreciate you.
Sorry.
No, that's okay. 𝕾𝖍𝖎𝖙, since you're here now, go ahead. What's your thoughts?
Okay, I think that most of what I see on the internet when people respond to people having big age gaps is super performative. And if it's not, we should kind of just get with the whole program of America. If you're doing something that I don't like and it's totally illegal, I should just mind my own fucking business. It's crazy, the idea that we're going to condemn people or chastise them for having an age gap, because you can't condemn age gap dating as a whole without condemning the individuals. And if you meet somebody who's special and you think it's right, I think it's insane for somebody to step and say, whoa, you can't experience this. And if you are going to say that, there's a bunch of people like you'd say Beyonce and Jay-Z shouldn't be together. what's his name? Elton John shouldn't have gotten married to his husband. These are all pretty big age gaps. I think that you can certainly have issues, but all the issues that you're going to find in age gap relationships are things we would condemn in any other relationship. And if you're just going to say that age gap is going to cause these things, I would say the burden of proof falls on you to prove that this is always a thing.
Okay. Thank you for being here, and I guess we'll see how it goes. Brittany, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, in spirit, if you are exceptional and you want to have an amazing relationship with someone, even with a large age gap, I think you should be allowed to do that in adult relationships. I do have a little bit of 𝕻𝖎 energy, though, when I'm seeing those 50-year-olds or those 22-year-olds, because it begs too many questions that I think are fair to be asking, which is like, what do you have in common? Why are you interested? Why is this happening? I know so many of my friends in age gap relationships. I've been in some myself. So I know that for me, at least from what I've seen, is there is a disconnect when it comes to culture. There is a disconnect when it comes to generational hobbies. There is a disconnect when it comes to energy levels. So of course you can make a 50-year-old and a 25-year-old work. We're 8 billion people on the planet. Someone's going to work. The question is, are you that exception? And is it okay to explore it in the first place? Of course it's okay to explore it, but it's also okay to say, like, this isn't really my vibe. I think a lot of people who are the younger people tend to get into those relationships because they're looking for mentors. And so I really want to avoid that dynamic in a romantic one because I think it's a mistake. You usually grow out of it for a reason, but that's just what I've seen. So it's anecdotal.
We will get into it. And it's okay. We don't have to have studies and sources to back all this up. We are just talking about our thoughts. Last, but certainly not least, irrelevant, please.
Yeah, so I think age gaps in relationships, I think it's going to be case by case, almost certainly. I will say that in age gaps, there is a lot of markers that would make it potentially so the power dynamic is abusable, but there's power dynamics in every single relationship, right? Just saying there is a power dynamic, therefore it's bad. I mean, come on, that's ridiculous. But I will say there is some like a knowledge gap, probably a like gap in where people are financially. Like one of the biggest issues that age gap relationships, especially with individuals in their 20s, run into is that one person might have an established life, an apartment or a house or something like that, car, all these finances, and one other person might be just getting out of college and running with some debt. So there might be some issues with that, but again, this is more of just like a financial issue that would be between rich and poor anyway. So like it's like a marker for different issues that we would have to talk about individually anyway. So it's case by case, my opinion.
Hey, I guess I'll start off by asking this then, because a lot of people are saying case by case, it depends on the thing. I do want to talk about in general, and I also want to talk about older men or older women who specifically look for younger men or women, younger partners. Leonardo DiCaprio is a good example. Raise your hand if you think he's doing nothing wrong. Leonardo DiCaprio has done nothing wrong. He's totally okay.
Nothing wrong because the action is wrong, or you like? Do I think that there's some trauma there?
That's actually a great. That's actually
a good
great
question. Well, answer it in both ways. I'm curious. What do you mean by that, Brittany?
Well, I don't think it's wrong for anyone to date a legal adult, right? I don't think there's like anything, but I think there's an indicator that he tends to date people about 25 and he doesn't seem to date people older. I think often in age gap relationships, from what I've seen, anecdotal, even using him as an example, usually there's something that's been stunted in the older person and they're relating to the person who's younger. And often the younger person, after they've matured past this older person, realizes this older person is stuck at a certain age, which is why they're dating that age group. So I feel like with Leo, from what I understand, even his past relationship, I think women have said that it's hard to date somebody who doesn't grow up. It's like a Peter Pan syndrome. And I think it shows in his choice of dating partners.
Isn't it
Oh,
possible
I kind
he
of
just
just
likes younger bodies?
I was kind of assuming that most people who date okay, the way that Leo does it, where he drops them kind of as they're right about as when they're turning 25, to me speaks to more of like a, well, I like the fact that they aren't as experienced, or they're not as, basically the experience. I'm looking for the inexperience. But I wouldn't have guessed trauma or anything like that.
Yeah, I don't know. And I don't know if this is true, but allegedly in his last relationship, he did want to settle down, but she thought he was too immature. So like the question begs and I guess I've seen it in my I've seen older people feel like they're more progressive in politics, so they date younger, but people their age aren't as progressive. So that's also something I've seen as well. It's like, what if you're 50 and progressive?
Oh man, like that's a great excuse. Yeah, I'm really progressive, and that's why I'm at the 20-year-old college.
So wait, if it's an excuse,
prowling
Wick, do
for
you think
chicks,
it's bad to do the age gap thing then?
I think it's weird if you have someone going to a specifically younger crowd and then looking specifically in that market. I don't know if it's wrong necessarily, but there is something, it sets off predatory vibes when I see that happening. If that makes sense. When you
For
see
sure.
a much older person, whether man or woman, and they go into a much younger environment and they start going on the prowl, so to speak. It sets off alarm bells, and I think it's okay to kind of
Well, I
listen
think
to your
also
gut. Go ahead,
for
Julie.
Leonardo specifically, I mean, he's barreling through women publicly. Like that's crazy. He's getting a new woman every year. Like, I feel like that's wild. Is that not wild?
How is
Someone
anybody
in-
shocked by this? Like,
Well-
how are we not all like super conditioned to understand that like rich guys with a lot, like if you have a lot of money and fame, like they just want to date women that look a certain kind of way, and they're kind of put off by age, like aging skin and all that. They just want like arm candy. This seems like something that we're all like super familiar with, and we all just know that it happens. But when we talk about the individual, it's like, what? There must be something wrong with this guy. He doesn't act like how I understand every rich guy to act like, you know, as I grew up in understanding how like rich and famous people behave. And I'm not saying they all
Not
do,
all
but
rich and famous people, right? Like,
yeah, but
them have
it's-
like aging relationships.
do we not understand that there's a trend for rich older men to be interested in younger women? And it seems
It's
like
not-
the thing that they have in common is just like they don't want to date older women because they think that younger women are more attractive.
Are you making an argument that all men are going to grow old and ditch their wives for younger women?
No, I'm saying that it's weird to act like it's crazy. The idea is crazy that like rich older men want younger women because they find them more attractive. Like I feel like this is not a crazy idea.
I don't think,
think
it
the
is
problem
crazy.
is-
Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry. I don't think the problem is so much like Leo DiCaprio in the sense that like because who gives a fuck about Leo, right? It's more so the like so I would say the real world implications of it, like how in the past we would have like older guys who were in college hanging around the outside the high schools waiting for their girlfriends to be done with school, you know? And now you don't see so much of that anymore, but it speaks to that same idea of like we socially push away people who do engage in these sort of targeting inexperience or whatever else, right?
So I don't. So in the case of Leonardo DiCaprio, I'm kind of. It seems like I'm maybe of a similar mind when it comes to this as 𝕾𝖍𝖎𝖙, and if where you disconnect, let me know. All I see is a guy who probably just values an attractive woman so much so that he more than he maybe values having things in common. Possibly, maybe what Brittany was saying is true. Maybe he is like stunted, and maybe he actually does have a lot in common with these women, but it's because of something that's stunting him, and that's possible. But as far as I'm concerned, like all that I really need to make this work is he just wants really attractive women as a priority in comparison to possibly relating with them, and so he's just dating young women.
Is there something stunted about that? Like, is there something like unevolved in a way? Because it's so monkey brain to be like, I just want something hot. Like, you don't want anything of quality, just like something hot.
I don't know, maybe, but and the reason why is I don't know how many people with the level of influence and social approval that Leonardo DiCaprio has that wouldn't do it. Like, I genuinely don't know. I think most people would probably do what he's doing if they had the opportunity.
Can I just
you may but $5 from Antonia Abrao to ask this, and I think it's a valid question. That's why I'm interrupting you. When a woman, usually over the age of 30, has this debate, do you think it's mostly out of concern for younger women, or is it just out of cope? That is a question, right? Like we mentioned, well, I want to turn the question also on its head to you gentlemen, right? Like, especially you, 𝕾𝖍𝖎𝖙. 𝕾𝖍𝖎𝖙, you're saying, well, he just wants to date attractive women. Do you not think there are attractive women over the age of 25?
Oh, so
right?
that's actually what I was about to say.
Oh, go ahead.
What I'm saying is that I think it's a lot more common that men think younger women are attractive. However, save for my wife, I have almost exclusively dated older my entire life. I generally find older women to be a lot more attractive than younger women, and it's weird because I'm starting to get to that age where like what I looked for is now like my age. And so that ideal attractive body hasn't changed much for me. It's like the mid 30s, upper 40s women. But I'm not crazy to think that this is what everybody wanted when they were 18, still when they're in their 20s or when they're in their 30s. I know what people talk about. I know what guys look at. But for me, this is just I just veer off. But I'm not going to say like Leo's crazy because he wants what I've understood most men for most of my life to desire. And I don't think that there has to be anything like super weird or wrong with you in that. I just think that like, the weirdest thing about it is that he's not acting like, oh, that's just, they just happen to be young. I think that the weird thing about it is that like, he doesn't care what people think about it and he's okay owning it, more or less.
So when we like asked this question, because I was curious coming into this, what do we think success is? Because for short-term relationships, like physicality is all that. Like who cares? Like if you're hot, you're hot. Let's have sex. Let's do this. But if older men are going to think badly of women as they age, then they wouldn't make good partners because eventually we age. So I guess I'm concerned with men who only go for younger women because like those women get old. So again, like why are we dating younger and what are we offering people? Because I think any relationship could work for a temporary amount of time. So I think it also depends on like what kind of relationship are we aiming for?
So let's say that Leonardo DiCaprio is indeed aiming for longer-term relationships. I think that there's a very real thing that happens where everybody sucks at the start of a relationship, in my opinion. We're all fucking ass. We pick like very specific, like he has to be tall, he has to do this, and of course it's like not as severe or whatever. But like over a period of time, as you get to know somebody, that doesn't matter as much. Like if you meet somebody who fits your exact blueprint for the partner that you want, and then things kind of like, I don't know, maybe they gain some weight and stuff like that a little bit later, it's not like, well, you're not the person I met instantly, so it's like whatever. You develop feelings for this person and then it becomes a little bit deeper. So looking for somebody initially on that basis of physical attractiveness, while I'll grant is definitely not a good blueprint at all for a long-term successful relationship, I would say that you can look for somebody that has those traits and then develop a deeper bond with that person that can become a successful long-term relationship. It's not likely, but it's something that absolutely can happen.
If I may, Julie, when I messaged you about this, you said it gives you the ick, right? Like the severe age gaps and that. Can you explain why for us, just briefly, and then I have a question relating to it.
I don't know, just the idea, like if my friend told me she started meeting up with an older man and was dating a man like in his late 30s, I would definitely have the ick. I don't know, I'd just be weirded out about it. I'd be like, why is he dating someone in their 20s and why is she dating someone in their 30s? Like, can you find someone your own age? Like,
do you think he would be possibly, or at least more likely to be, kind of some sort of a predator or abusing her somehow?
No, I think there's a bigger chance for it to happen in age gap relationships, just because, especially people in their early 20s, don't really know how to be an adult. They're still learning. But I don't think that just because you're with someone that's younger than you, you're automatically an abuser or whatever.
Well, what about the other way? And this was asked by someone in my chat, and 500 bits, so $5 to say. Why would we believe Leo to act predatory towards these women in regards to age, and not these women in regards to his income?
I think
I wanted to get to that as well.
I think it's because he's barreling through them. He's just new one.
I think that, okay, so like to be quite honest, right, especially when you're in your 20s, right, or in early 20s, like I guess how much agency would you say that you have compared to whatever age Leo is now, right? Or even wherever you are currently compared to when you were in your 20s.
But I don't want this to just be about Leo, because this question's more than like that.
Yeah, that's fair. No, I'd like to get off Leo. Like, I'd like to hop off of Leo's dick, basically. But because I don't think that he's representative of like the relationships that we're talking about.
I guess what I'm asking is, are younger 20, 25-year-old women who specifically,
I think it's just women
or men, like younger people who specifically advertise themselves as basically sex objects for older people, are they engaging in predatory behavior?
Yes.
I mean, it
What
can
does that
go
mean?
both ways, right?
Yeah, I'm confused. I'm confused.
Like sex workers?
Would,
Yeah,
would you? Yes. Would you?
maybe
For selling
not.
a brand?
It may not even be sex work, right? It may be someone who's like a gold digger, as they say, right?
Oh,
Someone
well, all
who's
gold
looking.
diggers are unethical in my opinion. So
Okay.
That's kind of what I mean. We would say it's bad no matter
unless
what,
unless the
right?
men are in
Yes,
on it and they're
that's
good with it. Like if the men are in
this
on it,
is
then I'm fine.
so I will when I say yes, it's in this context. If we agree that like these age gap relationships are like, oh, there's probably something wrong with Leo. There has to be something wrong with you then if you're an attractive young person seeking out somebody with resources. And I don't think that this has to. I don't think this is the case. But the reason why I answered it yes is because if we agree that there has to be something wrong with him, there has to be something wrong with this person. Just date somebody you like. Why are you dating somebody with resources? It's understandable. You have a marketable skill or a trait, in this case being incredibly attractive and maintaining that attraction, and you're using it to be able to, I don't know, maybe get money or to date somebody that is very desirable or to do whatever. That's what you're doing. And the same thing is that these influential rich people are doing who are old. They're like, I got a lot of stuff, a lot of people want me, I'm just gonna kind of do whatever the hell I want, and then so
Well,
they're gonna date
I
somebody.
think that's what I mean though when I say agency, because like essentially like, okay, are we like, you know, and I could be wrong about this, right? But if, especially with Leo being as influential as he is, or like, you know, he is as rich as he is, so for me it's like he has sort of the pick of the litter, right?
Yep.
So if, you know, if he was, he could be incredibly naive about someone just out for his money, right? And he's just taking on these people and then dropping them. But that's, I think I tend to attribute to him like some more level of agency because he has more of the power. Obviously, it could be reversed. Like this could be completely reversed. But if somebody's just openly kind of going for him for his money, I would imagine that he could maybe see that coming, but it's not so much the other way around where you have a younger person who maybe doesn't see the power dynamic that's been put on them. Not that that means that nobody's out there looking for money, but I don't know.
Well, even
I'm
minus
sure-
money, it's just like the toxicity of the younger person seeking like a parent figure or a mentor or like teach me your ways. But if we go even to a healthy one, what if we're like, because there's a lot of age gap relationships in my audience and I want to make sure that they're represented as like, there could be a healthy version. I don't know. They actually wanted to know, have any of you guys been in age gap relationships and like, what was the largest one? Like mine was 12 years and I was in my mid 20s and he was nearing 40. And that was my largest age gap relationship. Taught me a lot about things, but we weren't growing at the same pace, right? So it was different. What about anyone else?
Oh yeah, 17 years. My
I'd say
first wife. Oh,
No, go ahead, Drazi. I was cutting you off.
my first wife was 39 and I was 22 when I got with her. And it's funny because there's a lot of things that people would like to assume about the two of us and make like a lot of weird judgments. And I think we both brought different things that the other person thought was appealing. Like obviously I'm 22. I didn't have my own place. She had her own place. Like if you knew us at all, you'd know that she was like really sexually demanding. I was really young. She was like in her late 30s. So like it seemed like that worked out really well. So there's a lot of nuance and things that go on in relationships to where people are going to think, oh, they're with this person because of that. But it's really an amalgamation of different things that you like in the person. There might be certain benefits that you get because of that, because you're together. But I don't think it's fair to say that like, here's the reason why they're together. The reason why we got married to each other is because that we fell in love with each other. And despite the fact that there's 17 years separating us, and there's certainly challenges when you have an age gap that big, but I think that was up to the two of us if we were willing to put up with it. And I don't think it makes us like weird or shitty people. And I don't think she was predatory.
Do we see any difference at all in gender, right? So one of my super chats asked this, but then I have a question related to that. Gender doesn't have to play into this to talk about age gaps. Madonna comes to mind, as well as Holland Taylor. What does the panel think? And I guess I would ask, if an older woman specifically targets and looks for younger men, is that better, worse, or the same than an older man specifically targeting and looking for younger women? What do we think?
I'd say the same.
Yeah, I'd say the same.
Like
Yeah.
I'd apply the same lens.
Yeah.
It's the
So,
same, but it feels worse. Like, let's be real. Everybody
feels
feels,
worse?
a
What do
little
you
bit
mean feels
worse. Yeah,
worse?
you feel that feeling in your
Mm.
chest because, like, I think
I
everybody
think
might
socially
want to
we
say,
yeah.
yeah. Well, I think you're gonna say what I'm gonna say. Like, we think of the man as being like predatory when it's like that because it just feels like that. It feels like an old guy creeping on a school or something because we just have this weird feeling that's like that. But when everybody here is being rational and we're talking about it, we're like, it is the same. It really is. Women can be predatory. They can have their interest at heart. But I think we just typically see men as this sort of like predatory role, even in like normal relationships. So it's super easy to impose this like maliciousness onto men when there's an age gap and say, like, here's the reason I know it is.
Yes,
Well, I
but
mean,
that
it's the
comes from
same.
our society, right, Elder? Like, I mean, when I was growing up, like, I could never really go anywhere without getting 1,001 questions about where I was going, what I was doing, who I was doing it with. And, you know, if I had been a guy, I 100% would have not gotten those questions. And obviously, that kind of thing is very dependent on cultural and, like, social factors. But in general, we just give more agency to guys than to girls. And I think that's the answer there, right?
Do you think it's
I
because
don't-
the world's safer for men? Like, undebatably, like the world is just safer if you're a
What?
man.
It's not.
That's
slow
the
that
opposite.
down. Yeah. That's yeah.
Like you said, like you're getting a bunch of questions when you go out, but like it's not like that if you're a guy. It's because you're not generally worried that like a man. You're not worried in the same way that a man's going to be assaulted when they go out. And
You
stuff.
you
You're not
should
gonna have
be.
those
They're
same
they're
kind of
much
things.
more
Yeah.
likely to be.
Yeah,
right? Like a
we're much
man
more
is much
likely
more
to
likely
be
to be
physically.
assaulted,
Sorry, when
physically hurt
I was
outside.
trying to be soft about it. I'm saying we're not as worried about men being like sexually assaulted when they go
For
out of
sure.
the house, things like that.
Yeah, it's
And
assaulted
Okay,
for
that-
literally
people care
no
more
reason.
about.
Assaulted for literally no reason or whatever.
Yeah.
I've been assaulted because I walked down the wrong street or because I talked to the wrong person. But like women will generally get assaulted for breathing air inside of a wherever. And so yeah, for literally no reason, sure, yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
and I think that's what people worry about more.
the sexual assault thing, yeah, I can agree. Like in that's sort of the underlying unspoken question of it all in a way in some
Yeah,
of
that's what I
these.
was asking. Do you think that's the reason why?
Yeah,
Like to your
and
comment.
yeah, and you know, in my case, it's a specific like combination of factors where I am actually dependent on a man to get around. Right, I lived in a country where women can't drive, so literally, if I need to go anywhere, I can't drive myself. So it's something like that. But in that case, yes, I have less agency. Period. Right. So
Wait, what country is that?
Saudi Arabia.
Is that
You're
still
not
a
there,
thing?
right?
No, they did let women drive after I left, of course. Very convenient.
Sorry about that.
You're not still there, right? We're not about to get an angry email saying we're breaking the law by letting you talk freely about this stuff.
No.
Okay.
I don't care what Saudi Arabia thinks. I'd let Ice Bean speak. Okay, I.
Oh
See what they did to the
wow,
journalists,
you
man?
get Chadwick.
I could say that easily because it's not an actual thing, and I am in absolutely no danger. Couple more super chats to get through, and let me get through them. $5 from Fairy Queen to ask: is it fair to subject one partner to potential caregiving in old age due to a massive age gap in the relationship? And $5 from Bruno Goats to ask: if dating apps allow these age gaps, but the idea of it is seen as problematic, should we have institutions curb this behavior? Why not? And I'm curious your answers to both, especially to Fairy Queens. Like, is it fair for an older person to ask a younger person, knowing that, again, they're going to be subjected to kind of long-term elderly care in the near future in some of these cases? What do you think?
Well, that's what I was concerned about when I said, like, what are we doing here, right? Because I think I'm all about, like, stay together till you die kind of thing, so I don't see anything wrong with it, obviously. But do they know they're signing up for that? Like, do they know what they're signing up for, right? Because that's my concern, is not that they're in love, not that you're not going to be together for some time, but if you think you're going to grow old with this person, you have to recognize that if there is a 20-year gap, like, you might not grow old with this person, right? They're going to grow old and you're going to watch them die, which is fine. We can do that. I think you can consent to that. I just want people to be prepared for what they're signing up for, because look, when you're dating Leo or someone hot when they're 50, George Clooney or something, and then they're 90, and you're still only 50, it's like we're having a different conversation about like what we're looking at here. So again, I'm open to all possibilities. Yeah, it's a big age gap. It's a big
I'm
age gap.
thinking like they'd have to start when she was 10.
Yeah, it's a
but
big age gap.
which we're not going to get into.
Oh, no.
We are putting
a big
putting
age gap.
aside
That's too big.
We're assuming
So,
it
yeah.
all. We're assuming this is all of age. They're at least 18.
Yeah,
We're
everyone's
not
of
gonna get
age.
into-
Everyone's of age.
Yeah.
So yeah, I just want people to be prepared because like it's not a problem falling in love. It's not a problem growing old with somebody. I just want everyone to be prepared, including having children with somebody who's older.
That's a good question. Is it fair for a 50-year-old man to have a kid with a 20-year-old woman, knowing by the time they're kids and teenagers, they're going to be like they're 60?
I'm 25. My dad's like 70. It's not a problem.
Big deal.
It's fine.
I personally, if I were to have children, I don't really like the idea of having like children when I'm very significantly older, because I really do like the idea of like if my kid wants to go play soccer or wants to go play football or something, that I can do that with them readily, and I'm physically able to do those things with them very easily. And if I'm like in my late 50s, I'm gonna be able to kind of do it, but I'm not, it's not gonna be the easiest task in the world. So, but that's more of a me thing, I don't want to. I want to have kids when I'm able to actually do things with them if I'm going to have them.
There's an interesting
Yeah.
spin on that question. So you have a 50-year-old guy who wants to have a kid. Is he supposed to have a kid with a 50-year-old woman, and when the kid's 15, they're both 65? Now who are we having help this kid do the sports and stuff? So I mean, if you're gonna have one at that age, like it may be a little bit more advantageous to have one of the partners be a little bit younger.
When do you
maybe
if you did want kids, 𝕵𝖎𝖎, would you have an age limit on women you'd be looking for?
Well, I think that if I was gonna have kids, me personally, I would feel a little weird if I'd have to look at like mortality rates and things like that, and otherwise I would just have to like probably look at adopting, because I would feel pretty weird putting a woman's life in danger to have a kid for me, because I know that if you're in love, like that's going to be one of the kinds of situations where I understand that even me being honest can end up being manipulative. Like my wife loves me. I know my wife loves me. If she was like 47 and she's like, yeah, I looked at the data and I know that it's roughly like, I don't care. I'd rather die and give you the kid that you want, if that's what it's going to take, because I don't want you to die knowing that you didn't have, the child that you wanted in your life. Fuck that. That to me is shitty if you're willing to put your partner's life on the line so that you can have a kid, and knowingly at least. Complications come up, but yeah.
I generally agree with that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Basic.
I don't know. I think that like I'm not sure who mentioned it earlier, but it was a fair point. We are sitting here and we are being very rational about it, but I don't think people are rational about relationships in general. I don't think they're rational about I'll just be frank with all of you. If my younger sister, right? If when I was younger, my younger sister had come home and said, "Hey, I'm dating a 50-year-old man," I would have a problem with that. I would have a serious problem with that. I would make a lot of assumptions. So it's possible this guy could change my mind, right? Like maybe he's the most well-adjusted, very nice guy, harmless gentleman you could ever meet. But I don't know. I think that it says something about someone who is willing to date extreme age gaps that may not be flattering to them in general. I think it does speak to character when someone's willing to date someone who is massively younger or older than they are. I don't know.
What do you think it says about them?
That's a good question. I think that I'll tell you this, as a 40-year-old man, I just wouldn't date someone who is under 25 at all, ever. Right? If an 18-year-old woman came to me, I would just like, nah, the age gap's too much. You could be the smartest person I ever know, but you just getting out of high school. There's some issues here, right? Like, not only perception, but like just potential problems. And so for someone who is willing to overlook some of these huge potential red flags, I do think that says that they're maybe thinking with their little head instead of their big head a little. But yeah, that's my thoughts. What do you think, Julie?
I mean, yeah. I mean, I'm if someone way older than me came up to me like try to hit on me and shit, I'd like a man or a woman. I'd be like, don't you have like a pep rally to fucking organize? Like, what's going on here?
We
Um,
keep
I
talking
mean-
about relationships like they can't just be sexual too. Like two people can't just want to fuck each other for like a year and a half and hang out a lot, and that's fine too.
What do you mean by that?
well,
Well, like we keep talking
Like
about
Leo
relationships in the context
DiCaprio.
like they're gonna end up in marriage, you know, like why is it crazy like if I meet somebody who's like 10 years older than me or whatever the age gap is, and it's like we both get along enough to where like we want to hang out and be like, but we're mostly hanging out because we really want to fuck each other. And we do this for like a year and a half, and like, all right, like I'll just have to say like you're a bit too wild for me. Like I can't deal with some of your issues, and like yeah, well I can't deal with you being like fat and having a bad back. We're gonna peace out. That's fine. I'm gonna take that, and I'm gonna cherish the time that I had. Like I had a bunch of fun. We did a bunch of like wild, crazy sex. That's cool. No harm, no foul. Go on to like my next experience in life. Why is
I
that?
think
That seems fine too.
that can be fun, but do you think most people are going into honestly any relationship that way? Most people? I don't think most people are. I think most people, when they're dating somebody, they're usually dating with some kind of long-term goal in mind. They're not like, yeah, I'm going to date this person for 2 years and then we're done
I think they
at
leave it
the
up in the
start.
air. I think that when it's like that, they just say like, "Well, we're just gonna go with the flow." I don't think they ever say like, "Yeah, we're gonna like cut it
Yeah,
off in 2
sure,
years."
sure, but like, when you're 6 months in and stuff like that, you think that these people are still like, yeah, you know what, this will probably end sometime soon, but I'm just going to write it out. I think at some point when we're talking about the practicality of how most people, because I don't disagree with you, like in theory or like that it could exist if it's well adjusted, but I think if we're talking ass meets grass, somebody who's in a 6-8 month relationship under this context are not thinking, yeah, I'm just having sex with this person because it's just like fun to have sex with them. And I think usually people are going to be more attracted to physically, if we're talking purely a sex and physically thing, to agers that are closer to them, generally speaking. Right. So when I see some, like, let's say I see some guy who's 20
Wait,
dating what?
Do you think that's true? Do you think a 50-year-old man is going to be more attracted in general to 50-year-old women than he is a
I
20-year-old
guess, I
woman?
guess, I guess what I'm trying to say is for the younger
Physically, just
party
for
to be
sex, I'm
more.
talking, not
Yeah,
relationship.
no, absolutely. But what you're correct on that. What I'm saying though, in the context of this, is the younger person. There's one younger person in this age dynamic, so I'm generally assuming that the younger person isn't going to be attracted to the 20 plus year older person. So like the 20-year-old, let's say you have a 20-year-old man and a 40-year-old woman. If it's just exclusively a sexual relationship, I'm going to assume that that 20-year-old guy can probably find some people that he considers to be more attractive closer to his age, and vice versa. With a woman being 20, probably being able to find men that they find more attractive closer to their age.
We
So I'm assuming
Well,
there's a little bit more than just sex going on.
Go ahead, Ice Beans. You were about to say.
I guess I was I wanted I guess I didn't understand Relly's point. Are you saying I'm sorry, could you restate that? I was just
Sure.
gonna
Younger people inside of a relationship are probably, if we're talking exclusively for a sexual relationship, I'm assuming that these large age gaps are not going to be their sexual preference. So when I see a 20-year-old dating a 40-year-old, my first thought isn't, yeah, they're clearly dating that 40-year-old because they think they're hot and they want to fuck them.
Gotcha.
My first thought is not going to be that. Yeah.
Okay. Gotcha. Thank you.
did you ever have sex with a much older woman when you were like late teen, early 20s?
Bro, I don't have sex with women, bro. That's the meme, bro.
Like I
No,
can
but
say,
the answer is no. I have like the largest age gap I think I've had is like a year and some change.
well, there's definitely an appeal to wanting to have sex with older women rather than women like right around your age, because women right around your age like are gonna be less experienced generally. Especially if you want any kind of like emotional care in addition to sex, like it's gonna be a lot harder to find when you're like 20 with another 20-year-old than if you have like a much older person
Ye-
who
For
and not only that too, it might even be more comfortable to like ask for some of those things. There's a lot less pressure to like it's like be cool or like play a role.
I mean, I'm maybe not of quite as steep of a similar opinion. I'm actually of a similar opinion to you, Elder Drowsy. I'm much more attracted to older women. My
Based.
like in the mid 30s, late 30s range. I'm much more attracted to that primarily because of maturity. I really don't like the maturity level of most 20-year-old people. It feels like go party sex or some whatever shit. That's what it feels like being a 20-year-old person near where 20-year-old people live, and it's just awful. It's absolutely dreadful. I can't wait to be 30.
I mean, to tack on to what Wick was saying earlier, like the reason that I specifically wouldn't want to date sort of down is because like for me it's about experiences. It's about like, okay, have you lived by yourself, you know? Like, have you ever had to fucking pay a bill that was 2 months past its due? Like that sort of shit, you know? And if you don't have those experiences, then yeah, I might pursue like entirely sexual relationship with you, but that's not even gonna last long because I'm gonna get tired of that very quickly. I'm gonna want something that's a tiny bit more long lasting. Can I have a conversation with you? You know, that sort of thing. So, I guess even if they were smart and like they were like the smartest 18-year-old, that's only going to go so far for me because I'm going to want to connect over shared experiences.
Do you think that this is why? Because hearing all of you talking about this, like, well, we want older people because they're more mature and more experienced. Do you think that this is maybe why there are younger people, younger men, younger women who specifically will seek out older gentlemen, older women in order to have some sort of relationship with them? And if, right, as Brittany, you were saying, it's a little sussy baka, right, when you say it. With that information in mind, do you still think it's a little sussy baka though? Like, why wouldn't a 21-year-old who's a little more mature for their age want someone who's established in their 40s or maybe even 50s to start a relationship?
Yeah, I think it's a little play on fantasy. As somebody who's been in age gap relationships, as somebody who recently put a limit on her age gap dating, I did 5 to 10 years. Like, I won't go past 10 years. I feel like 5 is perfect. Within 5 years is what I find in being 34, like pretty perfect. Because if they're way too in their 20s, like I am not 20s Brittany anymore. I'm not interested in 20s lifestyle. I don't want 20 vibe in my life. And I'm not in my 40s yet. 40s Brittany's going to be so different than this. So I need somebody I relate to. I want to come home to somebody who sees me, who knows how to humanize me, who knows my struggles, who doesn't care that I'm doing drama on YouTube, like who's in the vibe of like chill, you know? And that's just not going to be the mature 50-year-old. What is maturity if you're 50 and you're hanging out with 25-year-olds? What maturity are we talking about? If you're 50 and hanging out with 25, where's the maturity? You know what I mean?
It's person to
Actually, that's a
person, though,
good-
right?
Actually, that is a good point. I feel like hold on. Does anyone remember that really fucking old Friends arc where like Ross was dating some fucking student?
Oh, yeah.
And then he like
Mhm.
and he like suddenly realizes it when he goes over to her place and she's like engaged in a water balloon fight with like people outside on
Yeah.
the street, and all of a sudden he's like, oh, this is what I'm dating this. I guess that's something I didn't remember.
To be fair with that, though, I feel that way, and I'm 26.
Right.
Like, I'm not going out and I'm not doing... Like, my roommate, right? He does some young people shit, you know? Going to the club, doing fucking Molly, doing shrooms, and all this fucking shit, getting high every single day. I'm in here just like, yes, I'm playing chess and learning poker.
Okay, what I feel like a girl who's 30 would be great with you, or like 28, 29, 30, like that range.
Yeah, and so to that point though, I don't think those huge gaps are necessary for like somebody of a similar position as me, where it's like, okay, well, I'm 26. Well, clearly there is a woman in her 50s it's like, no, probably someone who is a little bit past the big party phase that it seems like a lot of people do in their 20s and stuff. That's probably more for me.
Would you turn it down though? So say you go and you meet a girl at a bar and you hit it off and you could tell she's a little older. But then later on you find out, well, she's 50. She looks like she's in her mid 30s, you know, attractive, things like that. Would you turn that down simply because of the age gap?
No, not on the age alone. It would give me a little bit of a like, I don't know, because at that point, almost certainly, I think if you're in your 50s as a woman, it's going to be difficult to be able to have kids. So I need to think in that moment, am I going to make this serious? Because, like, I am pretty hard committing to not having kids without potential complications for the mother and stuff like that. Also, I need to think about, like, what Brittany said earlier, which I think is incredibly important. Am I ready to see this woman die 20 plus years before me? Am I ready for that? The possible love of my life to die 20
You
plus
get
years before
two.
me?
Then you'll be older and you can prey on the younger
Bruh.
one, right? Like, it's a win-win.
Wait,
yeah, I'm
was
gonna
the-
be a Leonardo, bro. He's
Were you
me.
just asking
I'm
him if he
him.
would like wait, or sorry, irrelevant. I'm not sure if Wick meant like would you like date this person long term, but like would you
Oh,
hook
I
up?
only date long term. I don't do casual at all.
Wait, can I ask
Well,
a
I mean-
question? Can I derail and ask a question? Great. Okay. Do you guys think there's a difference between age gaps and just hooking up and age gaps in relationships? And is one
Yes.
worse than the other? What would be the difference there for you?
Fuck whoever you want. I don't care how old anyone is, as long as it's legal. Even though it icks me out when it's under 18 to like such a T. And it does ick me out even if it's like 15, 18. It all icks. But I just, I understand. It's like fucking, right? But relationships, like that's where I'm like, okay, what are you doing here? Like, what are you promising this younger person? What are you promising this older person? Like, what are we even talking about? I'm going to die young with you or die old with you. Like, what does that mean? So then I even get more a little hostile. Again, everything can work. I don't want anyone listening to me thinking like, Brittany hates my relationship. I love your relationship. I just want there to be an openness about what's really happening. And also, I'm not going to lie to you. Maybe it's a little bit of bubble guilt here, but like, I'm trying to fathom explaining to like the people in my life. Here's my 7-year-old friend with his 20-year-old girlfriend. Because like in my bubble, we do not look favorably on huge age gap relationships. Like it's, even though there's like 10, 20, even 15 years with some of our relatives. One time, one of our uncles brought home a girl who was like literally 50 years younger. And we all were like, what are you doing? And what did she do? What did she do? Used him for his money and divorced him and then put him in a senior citizen home.
Sorry,
Okay.
I don't mean to laugh.
Jesus
Okay.
Christ.
Ruthless.
Damn.
Ruthless, these age gap relationships.
I mean,
This could
did we
happen
know
no matter
going in?
what.
Like, if that was the deal, that was the deal, right? Like,
How
you think
Brittany,
though
how
with,
old
like-
was
Well-
the guy?
well, if I may-
How old was he?
He was in his 70s. She was
Jesus,
24.
okay.
oh, wow. Oh, well.
Did you
my.
ask him if he thought it was worth it?
No,
Because he might
no.
be like, I'd do it again. I don't give a shit.
He got freaking Alzheimer's, so he doesn't remember.
Oh,
no.
no.
Buddy, guys.
Oh, this story just got
So-
sad.
That's
So
brutal.
then-
Yeah.
But the downside for him is only a downside for everybody else. He just got to do what he wanted, and then when it got bad and he's in the old person's home, like, that's it. He doesn't have to experience that most
Yeah, but
of the
okay,
time.
I'm
Way,
romantic. I
bruh.
feel like she should be with him and take care of him through his Alzheimer's and love him through his
Is that
Alzheimer's. 'cause
fair to
there's-
ask of someone, though?
Yes.
Right.
Are you in love? What is
If
this,
you're
a joke?
signing
It's
up,
not a
I
joke.
think if you're signing up for it, then yeah, sure, why
I
not?
think she signed up for the money in this scenario.
You can consent to what you think it's going to be. Like, I know for a fact my wife is in for a rough ride when I'm old, because I've told her, like, I'm already like, once I hit 50, I'm going to start fucking around, acting like I got dementia. I'm going to lie to her and tell her that like I'm going to walk up to people and like be weird and just to fuck with her. So like, she's going to be fucked up. She's not going to know if I'm actually losing my mind or not. So like, if she decides she can't handle that, then like, I get it. She didn't fuck me over, but like, I'm a goofy guy. I'm gonna act goofy when I'm old, and like, if she can't hack it, then like, I love her to death for putting up with me as long as she did.
Okay, so
She's
I think
not
this
wrong
is
for
the
that.
this is going to be the disconnect, right? Like when I say like what are we doing here? What are we getting into relationships for? Like I want to see you to the end of my life and vice versa. If you need care, if you need medical bills, if we have a disabled child, like there's no room except in abusive situations for us not to be together. So I don't do temporary relationships, but I understand that other people do. So again, if you're not doing temporary, I think the rules are just
But
different.
let's reverse that a little bit. So there's two things I want to tackle here. The first one, which I guess I'll start with first. I have been in strictly physical relationships that don't stay strictly physical. Emotions, bonds are formed. And so even if you're trying to stay strictly physical, there's always a quote-unquote risk, and it's a weird word to say in this context, a risk of catching feels, as the young kids say. And
Not
so
the
even
feels.
in the strictly physical relationships, I don't know. I don't know if it's a like we should keep that in mind, the age gap possibilities. And if you wouldn't be okay with the age gap, If it were a romantic relationship, you should really think twice if it's just for sex, basically. That's the first thing I wanted to say. The second thing I wanted to tackle is kind of tangential. But Brittany, let's turn this on its head. Like, if your partner is sick, you'd obviously want to take care of them. You wanted to sacrifice to help them out. But if my partner, if I got sick, debilitatingly sick, where I could not perform, function, and be the same person that I was before, like if I got Alzheimer's or cerebral palsy or any number of diseases, right? I would feel it to be a selfish act to ask or expect my partner to stay with me. If I love them, I'd want them to go find someone they could be happy with.
But they love you regardless through sickness and health, right? They love you regardless of what's going on.
Yeah,
Right?
Human to want
Do
both.
they?
Yeah. I would
Do
think
you?
so. I wouldn't leave someone just because they
Go
got
ahead,
cerebral
I
palsy.
want to
What
hear
the fuck?
Irrelevant. I want to hear Irrelevant has some Irrelevant's cooking. I hear his brain sizzling.
It's
I want to hear
because
it.
in my mind, you fall in love with the person, their personality traits, their quirks, the things that they do, those moments that you can share together, maybe the way that their humor and stuff like that, and you grow to love them. Let's say most of that is good, like with a crazy disease like Alzheimer's, right? Like most of that is gone. Like they're a lot of the things that you loved and you grew to love about them are gone and no longer exist.
If I really loved someone, I wouldn't leave them because they got Alzheimer's. That's fucking
Well,
crazy.
would you not leave them because of some loyalty that you have to the person, or
No, I love
because?
them regardless of whatever they have going on.
Okay, so then let's change the question. Let's say somebody you love changes their entire personality. Would you still
Is it
love them?
because are
Not
they
because of a
changing?
disease.
They're just being a dick to be a dick?
No, not even being a dick. They just change. They're no longer really funny. They're not really. You guys don't really
Well, what
have stuff in
happened?
common. You like
There
grow
has to be
apart.
something that happened, right?
You
There
like
has to be
grow
something that
apart.
changed them. There has to be something that changed them that can help me to understand why they are the way that they are.
Let's say they found a new friend group and they started to find new hobbies. You start growing apart.
Okay,
maybe
so it
they're-
depends on what their hobbies are. Are their hobbies really fucked up, and are they
What
things
if
that
they
make you
change political
uncomfortable?
parties? What if they come out as the opposite of
They
political
find
party you like?
Jesus.
No, political parties
By
doesn't.
Jesus.
As long as
mischief,
their political opinions don't stop me from living the way I want to live my life. Like if they're against abortion, but like I can then I can still get abortion, sure, whatever.
So
I feel like, just to answer your question a bit, I feel like especially if you're with a person for the long term, right, and you're experiencing the same things that they are, I don't see how likely it is for someone to have such a dramatic shift in personality if there wasn't some kind of thing that
people
causes
naturally
the
grow
shift.
apart, don't they? All the time.
Oh, no, absolutely, right? But I'm just saying that, like, if, for example, like, we lost a child, like, if my husband and I lost a child, and that's something that we're sharing together. Now, that could be the reason that maybe I go off the deep end and, my husband doesn't want to be with me anymore, for example. But apart from that, I'm struggling to find, like, something that would cause such a huge growing apart to the point where you're saying, like, at what point is it okay to leave? I guess.
Well, I don't know. In my mind, usually when people are in long-term relationships with another person, it's because they like some aspects of their personality, maybe relating to them, sharing certain things with them, and growing apart could look like them changing their hobbies. And let's say you're a very indoor person. You enjoy spending your time reading with this person and maybe creating works of art with them. Maybe making some music, stuff like that, watching TV shows. Let's say that they start adopting almost exclusively outdoor hobbies and they want to become like a hermit. They want to go out to the woods and they want to do these things for the vast majority of their day. And so you start spending less and less time together, like doing those things.
Yeah,
Is
and I
that
think I think that in that case that you're gonna have to have like a reevaluation, right? You're gonna have to say like, okay, well, we're not spending as much time anymore because of this new hobby that I have, and you are gonna have to sit down and basically be like, okay, how can we grow with this change that's in our lives now? And I guess if you can't get over your differences, then you can't get over your differences. But I think that most people in a long-term relationship would try to get over that difference or to make it up
course.
in some way so that they can have their conflicting hobbies and still connect and want to stay with each other, right? I think that's what most long-term couples do.
So
Yeah.
the the whole point of what I'm trying to say is it seems like people tend to fall in love with a person based on their personality, the ways that certain things about them that make them quite unique, like their quirks, whatever. And if these things change, it's so much so that they're almost unrecognizable to who they were in the past, like in the case with a lot of people with Alzheimer's. My mother has it. I promise you, she is not at all the same woman that she was even 6 years ago, right? If this happens, I think it is understandable why somebody would be like, yeah, I don't really want to stick by this person as fucked up as it is. I don't think they should.
If it's like a
but-
really drastic change, that makes sense. But if it's gradual and it's over time and you kind of grow with the person, because people are changing constantly all the time. If it's gradual and over time, it makes sense. If it's drastic, sure, like I understand being confused and wanting to break up over it or whatever. But I think the majority of people, change over time and they get different hobbies and different things. You like the person for who they are, not their hobbies and shit, right?
Yeah, well, what I'm asking is, what is who they are? And does that not...
The way that they make you feel.
Yeah, well... Do you want to... I see Brittany.
It's their soul irrelevant. She's saying it's their soul that matters.
Not the soul. I'm gonna go.
No, like
It's the only thing that fits all the stuff you're saying.
That's the thing, though. Like, do we believe in individual? Like, do I think nobody is irrelevant? Like, do I think irrelevant is a specific, unique person?
Do you?
Do you?
Yes. Like, I don't think I can replace irrelevant with somebody who's irrelevant. Like no
I
one
mean,
can
I
be
can. That's what I do all
irrelevant.
the time on panels when people ditch me and stuff, and like I just slot them in.
Piece of shit.
You're all fungible
Irrelevant can
commodities.
replace irrelevant with somebody who's irrelevant like, and less like irrelevant is now. That's what he's saying, is that nobody can replace me except for me. I can, the person I am today can die, and the person I am 10 years from now would just be another person sitting in my seat.
Yeah, I think what's important again is like, why are we getting married, or why are we committing ourselves to people, or why are we living long-term relationships with people? Like, again, and maybe it's just my relationship, but we got married with vows of in sickness and in health. And it's this idea of like, we do live in Europe kind of with the hope that if one of us does end up going in our mind, we could maybe get end of life care and maybe a dignified way of dying preemptively, because they have assisted death here. And so we're kind of hoping that that's something we could look forward to if we are unable to like care for each other. But
Wick fuming in the corner.
No,
Sorry.
that's a different debate. We're gonna stick on what we're doing. But go on, please.
But this, so we've thought of everything ahead of time. Because look, I am terrified of being put in a home, and I'm terrified of being given to my parents who are aging, and I'm terrified of being a burden on anyone else but the man who promised to let me be a burden on him. And so we're making that vow together to be each other's favorite burden. And so we're making that decision.
Yeah,
Did they get power of attorney? If you're like lost your mind, can be like, no, she's just kill her. It's cool. Like,
Yeah.
She's not even gonna know. Fuck it, I'm not doing this. Is that how that works?
No, like literally how it works. Do you mean like assisted death?
Well, yeah, with like power of attorney and all that. Can you just exit that responsibility that Wick's talking about? Which, by the way, Wick, I think you're full of shit. I think you want them to stay and take care of you, and you want both. You want them to go be happy, but you also want them with you.
I think no. I'll say this to because we're not doing
little
the
too
end of life
stoic.
care debate. We're not doing that. But I will say that, like, again, right? I think it would be the height of selfishness if I were to be in a situation where I could no longer function or do what I need, and they could leave me but made sure I was taken care of, then by all means do what they got to do, right? Like, it would be wrong of me, it would be immoral of me to ask them to pressure them into staying when they were no longer wanted. But
what about what you
right?
Wick, they
want?
agreed to it. No, Wick,
Well-
what if they are agreeing to it?
What do you mean?
This is the marriage contract, right?
I think that
Like,
that would create like undue pressures, whereas if it did not exist, they would normally not. And so I would pressure them. I would put pressure the other way, because again,
hold on a second, but no,
I think it'd
but this
be
is what
let me finish. I think it would be the height of selfishness if I demanded that they had to stay because they made a promise when we were both 20 years old, right?
So
That's true, but you said you'd want them to go. So,
Yes,
like, I feel like
think it
you'd
would
be like me and be like, I want you to go live your
wouldn't
life.
like want them to go is a weird question, but like I would want them to find happiness outside of me, because I know with me they could no longer have the same experience they once did, so they'd no longer be happy. Right?
But they want to experience you.
Sure.
They can.
I think we're on the same page.
Like, but not in the same way, because that choice to experience me has been taken from them because of the disease, right? Been taken from them, like from us.
Well,
both.
if that's the case, then we should just kill people who are terminally ill or have Alzheimer's or dementia.
Made.
No,
That's up to
because
Canada.
I
Just
still want to
basically taking
live.
away their dignity
I
and
still want to
consciousness.
live.
Either they're
I just
valuable
don't
or
want
not.
to drag everyone down with me, right?
No, look, I don't know how to say it, but my husband has already said he literally wants me to live forever. So he wants to keep me alive in case there's a cure, even if I'm in the middle of Alzheimer's. So he
Oh,
can do what he
no.
wants.
W.
He can do what he wants, but I swear to God, if he puts me in a home or gives me to my parents, I will haunt him. I will haunt him.
As you should. As you should.
He's like, nah, just throw me in the dumpster. It's chill.
Just let it go. Bam.
So I wanna kind of say this because while the arguments that I was making earlier, I think this is typically how a lot of people are going to run the structure of their relationship. I think most people are not entering these relationships, like Wick was talking about, in their 20s with the idea in mind, yeah, you're probably going to get Alzheimer's when you're 50, and then I'm going to have to spend the next 20 to 30 years of your life, like,
50.
working with you and doing that. Usually people are not doing this. However, it seems like maybe me and Brittany have a similar mind. I like the way that Brittany describes her relationship, like this committal, like we're going with this, outside of abuse, we are going through with this. I like this. This is my speed, right? But I also have to admit, and I'm sure she recognizes as well, this isn't the same speed for everybody. Not everybody's going to run at this speed. So, I think to what Wick was talking about earlier, where it's like you feel selfish about asking these people, usually what you would want is you'd want to have these kind of in-depth conversations before anything crazy happens. Like, hey, what do we look at? Are we here really through sickness and health? Or are we just kind of like going with the flow and just kind of like, yeah, whatever, like what are we doing with our relationship and trying to nail it down? This isn't to say, even with that being said, even if I have that ideal relationship where it's like, yes, through sickness and health, I will grant that I probably would feel bad about the idea. Let's say I get Alzheimer's. I would feel bad about the idea of saying to my partner that I want you to stay with me, because I know in the back of my mind, I am like financially burdening this person that I love very much, and potentially like I'm losing my sense of self.
Let's take it away from leaving anyway. Say you're in a situation where you become paralyzed and unable to fulfill your wifely or husbandly duties. Do you require fidelity in that case, or do you let your partner step out?
Wait, are you talking about like I can't have sex anymore? Or are you talking about like
just you got paralyzed, right? You got paralyzed.
Does my mouth
down.
work?
I'm halfway there.
I can't.
Dog.
Oh shit!
I was gonna say, you got hands, you got feet, it's fine. You make work.
So you're saying if I can't make my husband a sandwich anymore, then
You're in a wheelchair and you got TMJ. You're done.
You got Lou Gehrig's. You got.
We would
cerebral palsy.
renegotiate. We would open up renegotiation to see if he feels differently or if I feel differently.
yeah, I mean, if
Yeah,
like
that's the only
assuming
way.
my mental faculties are still intact, I think we'd have a conversation, right? Like if
Well,
you're
that's what
clearly
I'm
unhappy,
asking. Would you like?
what would you be willing to
What
accept?
is your willingness to accept it? Do you require fidelity? Do you require someone to just I'm assuming you're all monogamous. Do you
not.
require monogamy? Well, maybe not you, so you don't count for this question, but the rest of you, right? Do you still require monogamy in that situation, or do you let your partner?
Yeah, probably, yeah.
I mean
Okay,
that
so
kind of
Lou
that,
says
yeah
yes.
that really kind of I mean I think I would, because I take that like sickness and in health thing seriously, and
Oh, but they're not leaving
presumably
you.
my
Well,
husband
that's
did too.
crazy. I became disabled and you want to fuck other people, bro? What? Divorce me right now. What the fuck?
You guys are so
You
wild.
crazy?
I suffered an accident and now no more sex for you for the rest of your life. Fuck you. I wasn't the one who got injured. We both got injured, motherfucker.
What?
My shit don't work. Nope, I don't care. Your dick's getting hard just for you, buddy.
You got a face? What the fuck? We don't even work. This is crazy.
I'm kind of Elder Drazi's opinion here. I think
That's
if
so
I think if
fucked.
I think if I had an inability of total inability to be able to my dick stopped working completely, then I would probably it'd have to be a conversation, and I'm not sure what the concessions I'd be willing to make to my partner under that circumstance. Maybe not any. I legitimately don't know. Because it would take a lot of time to cope with that new reality. So I'd have to figure out what I'm, willing to do after it's really settled in that this ain't working no more. Ever. Like ever. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, it would take a while. I'd have to figure it out.
Do you guys who are monogamous, do you think it's okay for somebody to be like, okay, we're monogamous. I'm never going to leave you. You better not fucking leave me. However, I'm done having sex now. I'm just going to choose that I just not really into sex anymore. So now you're done having sex.
Can we do other shit, or is it just no sex? Like no sexual,
I'm not a really
whatever.
big fan. I think I'm asexual now, and you better not step out on me because we're monogamous. I think that the idea of you having an orgasm is disgusting. I don't want to have any orgasms, so we're both done having orgasms. Is that okay?
I feel like that's stepping on more than one boundary, though. Right? Not boundary, but like that's stepping on. This is
like someone that can't have an orgasm is beyond.
I think what Drowsy is saying is when they say no more orgasms is that they don't no more orgasms with them. You're not saying they can't masturbate, right?
If I can do what I want,
it's just you and your hand.
Fine. Oh, okay.
Do you think that's okay for everybody though? In the same way that we were just talking about?
No, probably not. Probably not.
You're paralyzed. So what if it's just a choice then?
But for me, if you want to be with me, then you better get used to that before you start fucking other people.
Yeah, that's
so I get used to it first and then fuck other people.
I just want you to imagine like the sweetest old couple ever, and you're just like, don't you want to fuck young pussy? It's like, bro, I'm in love and I'm growing old with somebody. Who cares? Like, I'm sorry, not everybody cares about sex this much. Like, it's just sex. Like, how much do you have to have in a lifetime? Like, look, I like sex as much as the next person, but like, honestly,
not enough to make my partner uncomfortable.
But look, if my partner and I want to renegotiate because of an accident and I would open it up. I did poly for 10 plus years. Like, I'm open. Like, I don't care. But the point is that does it work for our relationship? And if like we don't need sex from other people and we can't have it with each other, who cares, bro? We're growing old. Like, we're not prioritizing that. We're prioritizing intimacy, and we're prioritizing commitment, and we're prioritizing romance. But like sex, the action of sex, which like we do pretty freaking like a lot, okay?
We be fucking.
It doesn't matter if it ends eventually. It's just sex. Like, it's just like sex is great. Don't get me wrong, but you're making it sound like it's water, and it's not.
Yeah, in the hypothetical that you drummed up, Drazi, I feel like I'd be more upset with the like entitlement in this hypothetical person. Well, like I don't want to do it anymore, so you're never going to do that. Fuck you. No more. Like that's what I'd be more upset
abusive.
with.
It feels abusive.
Rather than like,
I mean, because I think it's like we can more or less see like a slow progression into the end point that you're describing, right, Drazi? But like where it's all like it's expected. We talked about this. Oh, you're just not feeling like sex lately. Oh, you're ace. Okay, let's talk about that. You know, like what does that mean for us? Blah blah blah. Like if it's all at once and all of a sudden you have to play to my tune, then that's abusive. I would say not abusive.
You can see in other ways other than sex.
Yes, but that's different though, right?
If we were in an accident in our 40s and he wanted to sleep with like 19-year-olds now, I'd be like, Sussy Baka.
I literally be like, are you fucking okay, dude? Like,
I'm sorry. Like, what's going on
here? Does the brain injury hit harder than I thought? What the fuck?
My main point is that is it okay to decide that another person is done having sex? Not just masturbating, but yeah. So in both of these situations, the one that I created and the one WhickTV created, it's not up to the person who's being told that their time having sex is over with.
But it's also about boundaries. If I don't feel comfortable with you doing that, then let's get a divorce. If you want to fuck other people, let's get a divorce because this is my boundary.
Yeah,
I guess I just think that it's a bit.
I mean,
I just think that if that's what you have to do, then you have to get. I would say you would have to get divorced and set them free then, and not lock them into a sexless life.
No, that's fine. I agree.
Like,
I mean, honestly,
they're not the bad one for saying like, well, I don't want to stop having sex forever.
I don't
Of
think
what?
they're the bad one for wanting to have the divorce to go have sex. I think they can be the bad one for trying to press you into sex or try to press you into do things or try to press you into having sex with other people while still being in the marriage.
Okay, but like, what are we literally talking about right now? Because again, like,
Age
are we getting married to the consciousness that is so special? Like, we ended up running into them in this one like limited life. And now I'm talking about the one. I'm not talking about the one. I'm talking about like the select group of millions of people that we're compatible with. Everyone's over here saying I'm lonely, and you're willing to ditch your partner that you found that is perfect just because you can't bang anymore. Like, everyone says they're so lonely and they can't find anyone. You finally find the person, and the only thing that changes is you can't have sex anymore, and not for any like stupid, salacious, abusive reason, for like a literal reason, maybe medical. You're telling me that's worth ending the commitment you made to
That's
this
what I'm
consciousness?
saying. If they
No, I'm
want to
saying-
end it, they can end it. I wouldn't end it myself. But
Why is the
To
person
be-
who wants to have sex deciding that it's over? Say, like, I need to have sex one way or another. We got to figure this out because that's very important to me. If they can't handle it, how am I the one who's ending the relationship? It
Okay,
sounds
so if
like
your
they're-
partner
Well, I
they
feel like
could-
it's mutual at that point.
Yeah,
isn't
like
it?
you have to make
Yeah.
the decision, because again, I don't know how many of your partners or like people you've known, but like in my world where I am in my culture, like you grow old with your person. My grandma had Alzheimer's. Her husband didn't think like I should go have sex with other people. He just stayed by her bed every day and visited her and loved her. And like you commit to that person. Like it's okay to have sex. I'm not saying it's bad, but if it's not negotiated, like, do you get what I'm saying? Like, I don't understand what's wrong with also not having the sex. It's okay to have the sex.
I
but
think for some people,
also,
sex is
if
like
you-
one of the
if you
most
think it's
important
okay
parts of
to
the
not-
relationship.
Yeah, it can be for some people.
I think-
Yeah.
Look, I don't think it has to be the most important. I don't even think it has to be top 5, but I think that there's something to be said when somebody says, okay, sex is off the table for you now, that can have a very big impact.
for sure.
on-
But why
so
are they
how
saying
you're
sex
going
is
to-
off the
saying it,
table?
yeah.
That's
I don't
the
get why they
important
would
part.
say that.
Let me ask you,
It's
Julie.
why they're saying it.
I'm curious what you would say, because you're coming out pretty strong with this take.
Ooh,
Would
come on,
you,
strong. What, me? Sorry.
Yeah, you're doing good. I'm proud of you here.
I'm on my 6th drink, so.
We're not gonna touch it. Okay. Uh, so if sex isn't that important to you, would you go into a relationship knowing there's gonna be no sex?
Yeah, if I really like the person, yeah.
Really?
For me, it's more
Okay.
about friends, yeah. 100%.
It's more about friends. What's the difference between a relationship and a friend to you?
There's more intimacy in a relationship than just friends. Like
By
I want to
intimacy,
know.
you
I
mean
want to
sex?
know that I can tell
You
you,
build a
everything
life
that I
with
can.
somebody. It's not the sex.
Yeah,
I've
yeah,
had sex with my
yeah.
friends. You build a life with someone. I don't build life with my friends.
Exactly. If we never had sex, I'd be like, okay, I'll just fuck myself. It's fine. Don't worry
It's
about
fine,
it.
okay.
It's about being able to. It's about being able to give the person a Dutch oven.
Yeah.
whip. That's the
Thank you.
difference.
That's exactly what it is.
Irrelevant. Do you feel the same way? If you met someone, you were compatible, but they're like, we're just never gonna have sex, but I want to build a life with you. Would that be a relationship you'd consider?
Yeah. I mean, for me personally, yeah, I could having
I mean, yeah, it's like
so
very
having
much-
casual sex was perhaps, and having sex in general, bro, it does not meet the hype for me, bro. It is like it got hyped up so much to be like, bro, you're gonna love this shit. It's gonna be the best shit. Nah, man, nah. So in regards to this, yeah, if I really connected with somebody, I will not deny the connection probably needs to be greater for that. Like
Sure.
I'm gonna need to feel stronger about it than I would otherwise need if it was without sex. But I'm 100% open to that. Yeah, absolutely.
Am I just asking the wrong crowd? Like, this is the
Oh
these-
yeah,
both of these
you are
answers
100%. Yeah.
are like
You
wild
could
to
get.
me.
You want to get Darius in here?
Yeah.
He'll be like, no, absolutely.
I am
At least
curious what-
5 women.
I'm very curious what Darius would have to say, but I don't know if he'd meet the vibe check for the panel.
Can I ask a
I'm
question?
Darius
Wick?
in this situation.
Please, go ahead.
Crazy.
Again, like being allosexual, being like having a sex drive, like having the desire, same. Like, but also like I've had enough sex in my life. I'm good, bro. Like, how many threesomes do you need in a lifetime? But like, okay, so that's why I'm also
Well,
monogamous,
You're not
right?
even talking about a threesome. We're just talking about. Like,
I'm just saying, it gets old, but like maybe not, maybe for not everyone, but that's good. That's good that you know that about yourself. Here's a question, bringing it back to age gap relationships is, because this is hard for me. Do we actually know why we think it's kind of icky when there's like a 7-year-old and a 20-year-old? Why do we think it's a little sussy for a
Is
19-year-old
it the
to
life
be?
experience, the difference in life experience, the difference in knowing what is and what not and what not?
Maybe, because I will be honest, after 30, I don't care how big the gap is.
That's what I'm saying. I agree with that too. I think when people in their early 20s, they spent the majority of their life being a child. and so they're just now learning how to be an adult, and they need to have all these experiences and stuff. I feel like people need to have experiences before they settle down and have a family, because otherwise you kind of miss out.
What
Why
if
do
they
all
had
these
like
relationships
huge
have to be
amounts of
settled down?
experience when they were very young, though? Like, right? They went through.
It's still not the same.
Yeah?
It's still not the same.
Or what?
More
What about
experience
the
when I was younger than when I was in my early 20s, and still not the same.
what about the opposite? What about somebody who's had no experience all the way up to like their 30s? You know what I'm saying? Like they've stayed locked in their room just reading all day.
I wonder
Listen, I'm
who
just
could that be?
asking for a friend, bro. Asking for a friend.
It sounds a lot like this age gap thing is a proxy for other things that we actually care about and isn't really dependent on the age
But the age gap tends to, like, you know, what does it correlate? It tends to relate to your age, you know. I think that's why we talk about the age gap, because these
Age gap
types of
directly
things
correlates
tends
to
to
your
relate
age.
to your age.
Well,
Okay.
I think she's referring to like whether you are an adult or not, right?
Well, I guess we kind of
Like,
already have a
past the
set
past
definition
25.
of what an adult is.
Well, yes, but I mean, like more so that yes, we have like the legal definition, but like we also have like an idea of like 25 is like that's
Have
when
you ever
your
paid
brain
taxes
is
before? Basically.
yeah, that's
this-
sort of thing. Well,
this is
that
where it gets
goes
so
that goes
weird.
into it. That goes into it, right? But like generally after 25 or like even 30, we basically see someone as like a self-actualized person. Like this is who you are as a person. Or at least that's kind of how I see it. And so yeah, after that age, I'm like, I do not give a fuck. Like even before then, you can kind of say, okay, do I give a fuck? But I ask like, but I would want to ask like, okay, is there like some kind of weird power dynamic I don't know about? But even then, like after 30, it's like whatever, you know.
Why does everybody have to seek out the same values? Say difference in life experience. Maybe what I'm looking for when I'm 21 is somebody who has more life experience. Maybe I want somebody who could give me a little bit of guidance because I don't know what the fuck I'm doing.
Why
Maybe
you
I
go
don't want to
troll
go
the-
chaos
troll the
through life
nursing
with
homes
another
at
21-year-old.
right? Do you think it would be 𝕵𝖎𝖎? Would it be weird? Is someone who wants that wisdom, right? They really believe age comes with wisdom. So that's what they want in a relationship. They want to be mentored. They want to be taught. They want to have someone to take them up. They want a senpai, basically. And they want... Do you
wanna
think it
be
would be weird
groomed.
for them to go to a nursing home or go to somewhere where like an elderly facility? Maybe
What do you
one-
really want to know?
Right?
Weird
Do you
is
think
too
that would be
charged.
bad?
Obviously, it's weird. Bad? No. Dude,
Why
when I was
not?
21, I had
You don't
sex
think
with a
you would
51-year-old.
you wouldn't think that's bad
Why is
for a
that bad?
21-year-old person to go to a nursing home or an elderly care facility, somewhere where they're not like sick or nothing, they're healthy. But
You gave me their intentions. You just told me what their intentions were. So yeah, like honestly, if some 70-year-old woman hooks up with this 21-year-old guy and like this is exactly what he wanted, if she's hooking up with him, that's what she wanted. This chick just had like the fucking best day in like the last 10 years of her life. She's like, I never would have thought that the day would have come for me. Like if she's saying yes, that means she's been thinking about it. You're not going to be 70 on the fly, like, oh, well, I never considered. I guess I could.
70-year-olds, though. I don't think the majority of 70-year-olds are like, you know what I could do today? I could fuck a 20-year-old.
Right. So if he found somebody who's down, why is it wrong for either one of them?
I think there's something more here though, and I don't. This is a very contentious
Wick
conversation.
gave me the intentions, though. That's important.
Right? Like, sex is sex is sex. Like that's what you hire a hooker. Like go temporary. It doesn't matter. Go to a poly dungeon. Like everybody's be okay.
Why are you
But, like-
standing outside the high school, bro? Sorry.
Yeah, like there's something about our choice of
I'm
partners
dating a
and why we
teacher.
do it. There's always a reason, right? There's always a
Ooh.
reason. And I wonder if we're being honest with why we're doing it. And if it's something like, oh, they have hot young bodies, so that's why I do it, that's fine. But that's not really helpful because those bodies age. And again, like what's the ick we really have with age gap relationships? And for me, it's the intentions. What are your honest intentions? Because if you tell me it's just sex, I'm good, bro. But even that's weird. Like, why do you specifically got to get that young body? Why do you have to have that thing? But
I
that's
also feel like
fine.
there's more room for like abusive situations to happen in age gap relationships because people in their early 20s
Both
and
ways.
stuff specifically
both ways.
don't know what the fuck they're doing.
But also, look, I'm not saying that they're always wrong. I'm not saying like we even have to take sides on this, but I'm saying there is a thing that's sussy about it. There's a reason why we're moving away from it. There's a reason why some of us move like, that's really weird. Like you're at a college party and your friend brings over their boyfriend and he's 55. It's like, oh, this is weird. What's happening
Ugh.
here? Like, that's
Oh,
weird.
get him out.
It's not just weird because it's strange.
Why'd
Because
you
in other
bring the
cultures,
professor? Right? Like,
I think it's
Oh no.
Yeah,
it's weird that he's at the party more
baby
than that
girl.
they're dating.
Just study with me. What the
sure,
fuck?
but like when you're dating, are you dating because you have something in common? Are you dating because you're the same path in life? You want to grow together, or do you want to meet your partner? Because I'll notice even in my former age gap relationship, when my guy was 12 years older than me, I grew past him. I was like, hey, are you gonna like grow up, or are we gonna be like Burning Man people for the rest of our life? Like, what's happening? And he was like, nah, this is it. And I was like, oh, no. And so like I bailed, but I'm still a kid in so many ways, right? So I'm not saying I'm more mature in that way, but like I wanted something longer in life, right? Like more in life. So
Sounds
even
like it's a beneficial relationship for
Two
you to
things-
have
two
to
things
help you
before
grow
we
and
go.
learn as a
but
Elder
that's
person.
not the
Drazi?
same as, but I want a long-term
yourself.
relationship. So it was a failed relationship because we didn't make it to long-term. It was a good temporary in the moment relationship. But what was the point of it if we didn't grow old together?
Elder
I think
Drazi,
those are
take your
important,
camera
too.
and move it over so you're in the center because we're
Oh,
seeing like a
sorry.
half a Drazi here. $2
Sorry, I
from
was,
the
like,
Empowered
leaning
Man
in.
to say much respect to Ice Bean. $8
Ice
from
Bean,
Remy
Ice
LeBeau
Bean,
to say
Ice Bean.
Beans rules, Heem gang forever.
Agree.
Oh,
Agree.
nice. Thank you.
We need more
Yeah.
Ice Bean love. Can we
Yeah.
get more?
More
One.
Ice Bean love in chat, especially with money attached to it.
Yes.
That would be
Yeah, give Wick money.
exactly. That's the relationship
Give
we're
Wick
in.
beans.
I'd
Show
get a
beans.
drink for subs, but I'm out of drinks. Oh,
I don't think you can drink for subs either. I think that's against.
that's crazy. Who would make that rule?
I do want to talk about though, like because Brittany brings up an interesting point when it comes to age gaps about the true intention. Even if someone did say that, oh, I just want them for sex, or even if they just said, well, I'm just looking for a mature mentor. How much does that fucking matter at the end of the day? Because what you're doing, right, like regardless of what your intention is you're putting yourself in a situation or someone else in a situation where there's a lot of chance for things to go terribly wrong. A much heightened, I guess I'll ask for this. Do we think that massive age gap relationships, I'm talking 15 years plus age gaps, when you're 20 to a 40-year-old, 20 a 50-year-old, do we think that there is at least a heightened chance that things will go south or go wrong? Or
Yeah.
Ooh, That's,
So,
that's
yeah.
super interesting. Do we really think that we should be prescribing relationships based on like mid-maxing successfulness? Because
to an extent.
okay, so if that's the case, I think this is really crazy. So I looked up a bunch of statistics for this. Interracial marriages, 10% higher failure rate. Arranged marriages in the United States have a significantly lower, like 30% lower divorce rate. If you go to a country where that's the norm, 1% of arranged marriages fail. We would not suggest this. And we're talking about like, this is peak success rates here. But we can argue against those things because relationships are nuanced and we would never want to look at maximizing outcome when we talk about these things.
Okay, look, I want to make sure from my position, like I am agreeing with you that like we want to look for the exceptions, and then like my whole audience is niche people, right? I'm not trying to prescribe like the norm to anybody here, but I do want to make it clear that the why is interesting. Like I did an old traditional courting style wedding, like courting style dating, and everyone thought that was kind of crazy, but it works. And like it worked for my parents, it worked for my brother, it like works, but we're secular, right? So we adapted it, something that's traditional. I don't want longevity to be the success if there's dysfunction in the relationship. I want healthy, well, I don't want to say long-term either, because I think short-term relationships are successful if they're negotiated to be short-term. But the dilemma is that often in these age gap relationships, I think there's a miscommunication about intent about the longevity of the relationship. And it's usually because an older person is sort of maybe having fun with the younger person, or the younger person's like, I really love this person. I'm really into them and they're really teaching me a lot. But when reality hits and you start talking about Social Security and health insurance and having babies and real life, it can get difficult. So again, I think there's a miscommunication about what we're even doing here. If it's for long term, I think it's possible. If it's for short term, I think it's possible. But are people being honest with their intent when they're trying to make these things possible?
Yeah, it just has nothing to do with age gaps, right?
Well, I think, I don't know.
You can lie
that's
just
the
as easy as
question.
somebody your age.
So
they correlate to ages,
can I,
do they not?
Yeah, can I springboard off of this? It's that when people, a lot of times people will be unreasonable about what they can handle in a relationship going into it. They can get the rose-colored glasses and things like that. And there is a lot of issues, especially with large age gaps in relationships, that you really need to not have those, rose-colored glasses on to be able to understand. Like Brittany was talking about age, Social Security, all these things. These are very important things that you need to have the forefront of your thought when you're thinking about possibly having a long-term relationship with somebody with a significant age gap, that it seems like maybe not a lot of people are equipped to be able to handle. But this doesn't throw away the entire concept. It's just like more often than not, you might have to be more cautious about these things because they run a little bit more of a significant risk. As to the original question of like, are these more likely to fail? I think so, just simply on the merits of, I think more often than not, a 20-year-old is not going to have very much in common with a 40-year-old in comparison to another 20-year-old. So if just simply the question of, are these relationships going to fail more often than not? I think probably. That's just it. This isn't to say, again, you shouldn't do it.
So
It's
then,
just
given that
like,
that's
The
the
marriages
probably
do
case,
not.
fail more.
but given that that's the case, right? And I think we all agree that is the case. At what point of failure rate is it immoral to risk that? Someone who you know that the younger person that you're trying to get with wants something serious and long term that will work out, but you know that just on the numbers, you are much more likely to fail than someone that is 10 years younger or 20 years younger than you getting into a
I
relationship
wouldn't
with
say
them.
it's immoral. I wouldn't say
Yeah,
it's
does
immoral.
someone
If you
actually
want to
make
take
a-
that chance, then you should take that chance. Just go into it understanding that you have a higher chance of failing than if you would just be with someone your own age. But if you really like that person, you should go for it. But just understand that it might not work out the way that you think it would.
Does anyone really make a decision based on like the survivability rate of the relationship? Like, does anyone look at like a study and says, "Oh, hey, it says here that my
we make
marriage
those
is full-"
decisions all the time.
Yeah, I
Well, no,
wouldn't,
but do we do that based on like the stats? Is my question.
No, Wick, I think that you're
Does that make
correct.
sense?
People do this a lot. We don't ever use stats like Ice Bean saying, but we do this a lot. So like, there's this thing where when my wife has had a failed relationship with a woman that she dated, she'll get really upset that it ended, and then she'll like look at the good things as bad things, and I'm always like, no. All those things that were good between you guys were good. You get to keep all those good experiences with you. That doesn't mean that it's bad because it ended. And I don't understand
that's
this
not
idea
exactly
that
what
it's
I meant.
a bad thing because it ended. It can still be just as beautiful
Sure.
as it always was.
What I
That's
mean,
so poly of you, bro. I love that. But that's so fucking open relationship of you. So like, yes, an open
You
relationship.
give this to a monogamous person
like,
who ended
no.
a relationship too.
Yeah, totally, bro. But like not when you're trying to grow old with somebody, right? Like when you're trying to go older with someone, you're playing a different game. So I agree. If you're playing your game, absolutely, I agree with that. I agree that all the relationships I've had prior had beautiful moments, but like also, I wish I didn't have those memories sometimes because I wish I had just found my person, but I didn't. I had to like date a lot of wrong people, right? They were wrong relationships, and I don't feel that way about those people. I feel like good for past Brittany, but like I think again. You don't want to go on. Poly brain says, yes, I agree with you, but monogamous brain doesn't work that way.
Well,
like,
I
it
also
doesn't
feel
work.
like a lot of people in their early 20s get into those wrong relationships as they're growing and learning.
Yeah, and they pick up tools and they learn what they need. But in poly relationships and open, you're playing like such a different game, which I love, like totally recommend. But you have to know that that's the game you're playing, right? And also, I just want to say, like, I really think any kind of relationship can work, but I am sussy. Like, I live in a Croatia where it's 16 is of age. You think I'm not suspicious when 55-year-old guys are
bro. That's crazy.
I'm super suspicious. Why?
My
Because even though it's
the
legal,
Russell Brand
I'm
says hello.
freaky about it, and I don't know what it
with
is.
the power
no.
stance, with the
Power
stance,
dynamic, or
sorry.
even women. It's like, why are you going for someone who's so obviously not in your on your level? And if they're not on your, or if they are on your level, then that means you're really something's wrong with you. That you're 55 and into 18-year-olds.
Well, it's probably easy fuck or whatever, right? They
But
just want
that's
an easy
different.
fuck.
If it's an easy fuck, I don't care. But if
Super
they
easy
tell
for
me
the
I'm
younger
in love,
person.
we're connecting, we have so much in common, it's like, how am I going to believe
I think
this,
they
bro?
might use that as an excuse to get the easy fuck.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah.
I
On
think
which
so,
side
too.
though? You think a 20-year-old woman couldn't fuck like almost any 50-year-old straight dude that she wants? Come on. Like she has her pick for the most part.
Sure.
Just
like,
just
for
as
sure.
much as you think that if you think like a 50-year-old has a shot with like an 18 or a 19-year-old, those numbers are dramatically flipped when it's on the woman's side.
I think the dysfunction is clear on both sides, right?
Sure.
Yeah,
I don't disagree with that.
that's why that's kind of what I'm illustrating, is that it's just as it's not like the old guy is just looking for an easy fuck.
Now, why is there dysfunction is the question. Like, why do we think it's icky? Why do we think it's dysfunctional if two consenting parties are dating each other regardless of the age
There has to be
gap?
a reason. There has to be a reason, right?
So my thing, so some like in an answer to a question that was asked way earlier, so when I was way younger, this was before I was legal, I was in a age gap relationship, and looking back at that now, I'm like, I absolutely did not know what I was getting into. And that to me kind of is where that ick can come in, because I know what I was like at that age and how immature I was and how I didn't pick up on any of the like sleazy flags that this guy was like flying. So that's the sort of thing that I would actually try to, yes, prevent for other people, regardless if they're men or women. And that's kind of where, for me, that ick does tend to come in a little bit. But yeah, I don't know. It's not necessarily like a cope in answer to that old question that was asked earlier. It's more to do with the like, I'd rather prevent somebody from going through the same or similar thing where I'm taken advantage of because I don't know what red flags look like.
100%.
That is where that comes from. We're afraid of the worst case scenario happening, and that makes us feel really freaked out. And it should.
It's not even worst case scenario, though, right?
It's any type of scenario.
It's like
it's
just
a common
bad
scenario.
case scenario, right?
Actually, we are worried about that always, because we see younger people like we knew what we were like when we were young. We were stupid, and they're like, what if they're just being stupid and something bad's going to happen to them? I wouldn't want that. So this is where like I feel protective, so I want to impose what I think is right onto them. I think that's all it is. That's the ick. We're worried. We're scared for them. But gotta let them live their life.
Can I throw in a little red pill like side derail here? Sorry. So if we think there's nothing wrong with age gap relationships and we're like they're fine, they should happen, whatever, then how come most men in their mid-30s are not dating women in their early 20s? Like why shouldn't that be the norm? Why shouldn't that be the norm? If that's the prime for women and men, why shouldn't most relationships be that way rather than most relationships being like people are dating people in their similar age range?
We're not slaves.
I think in the past, wasn't there the average age gap like 6 or 7 years? Like
but now
50s
that
and stuff?
But isn't that women didn't really, they were getting kind of married off. Now they get the choice and they want to date men in their own age range. Why would that be?
Yep.
Huh?
I think a large part of that is the people that you interact with are usually in your age range.
Yeah, the people that are around you and stuff. But that's what I'm saying. If that was the most optimal, like prime, like relationship to have, wouldn't most people be choosing that regardless of the people they're around?
No, I've never had anybody choose the prime.
Yeah. I think. And just to be fair, to kind of go all the way back to Leonardo DiCaprio, I actually think that's kind of a part of what Leonardo DiCaprio is doing. Is I think he's probably surrounded by women who are in their 20s because the industry of acting is inundated with young.
There's a lot of actors. Hold on, there's a lot of actors who date people their own age.
I mean, why can you?
There's a lot of actors who date people their own age.
There absolutely is, but
he's an outlier for a reason because he's being wacky-oly.
Well, I think he's an outlier because he's consistently dating at one specific age.
Is he an outlier? Like,
I
want to point to you, Dane Cook, who is 51, just married his wife.
Who cares about Dane Cook?
24, and they started dating 6 years ago.
But hold on.
That's weird.
But hold on. Wait, they have been dating for 6 years. They kind of like they had that adult relationship together. Whereas every year Leonardo DiCaprio is getting a new woman. He's like I said earlier, he's barreling through women.
I think
he's not sticking with one woman.
I don't like it.
Yeah, but
I'm being judgy, but I don't like it. There's something
about
I don't get
weird
it.
about it, right?
I don't get it,
girl.
A 45-year-old man finding an 18-year-old girl, right? And then 6 years later they're married. Grooming anyone? Like, I don't know.
I don't like it when people ride the line. When people ride the line, that's
weird. So we agree that 46 and 18 is bad, and age gap relationships when you're really young are not good. Thank you.
I just have a big concern for the younger person having to raise the older person. That's my concern. Is the younger person is going to have to eventually.
What do you mean?
Because the older person is, if they're, I still think like if their maturity levels are matching, or if they want to, mentoring, grooming, and all that stuff is possible. But I'm actually concerned with the idea that the older person is lacking so much maturity that the younger person is going to reach like her 40s or 50s or his 40s and 50s and realize like, oh my gosh, are you not going to grow up, dude? And a big part of it is the promise of I'm going to grow up because I'm older. I'm more attractive to you because it looks like I have my shit together. So again, I don't care. Every relationship could work. Everyone could be toxic. It doesn't matter if you're the same age or the same gender, whatever. Everything could be toxic. But the idea of age gap leads to so many other possible harms that I would just ask the questions. I'm not saying you shouldn't do it. I'm saying you should ask and be diligent and not just assume it's going to work because someone's got their money together and you're young and hot and like that makes sense somehow. I just think people should consider what they're doing. And I think most relationships fail because we're not dating the people we should be with. We're dating the people we're settling for.
I think
Mm.
I'm against Dane Cook's marriage.
Ooh.
Well, honestly, he met her when she was 18. That means she's too young to know that he steals jokes. She thinks he's actually fucking funny. She thinks that's him, and it's not. He's putting on a facade. He's telling all the greatest hits of the 90s comedy tour, and she's falling for it. That's fucked up. She should boot him just like we all booted him off the comedy stage. You can't be doing that shit.
$50 from Lawson Harrison to ask this, or this, yeah. When looking at the double standard, there seems to be more older men dating there seems to be more older men dating younger women versus older women dating younger men. Does anyone else think this double standard exists for reasons outside of societal conditioning, and is it potentially justifiable?
Societal
the premise.
conditioning? That's
So
a
outside
steep
of
one.
outside of the
Yeah.
societal conditions, is there
That's a steep
perhaps?
one.
I think what he's getting at is it maybe a justifiable reason where you see more older men with younger women than vice versa?
I mean, maybe we're going to disagree here. I think more often men look for physical attractiveness in their partners than women do. And I also think women more often look for stability markers in their partner
Yeah.
than men do. And therefore, they're naturally going to gravitate towards women dating older men and men dating younger women. I'm
True,
not sure,
that's-
but
that's
like,
a good
I don't know. Like, the problem is that like
Mm.
outside of societal thing, that I'm not sure if that entirely comes from society or not. So, like that.
Yeah,
I'm
is
not
that
sure.
that seems agreeable to me too. Is
Well-
the person who asked the question do they have like something in mind?
I don't
Yeah,
know,
well, okay.
Lawson.
Well,
You
I
got
don't know
something
if
in
that's
mind?
I don't know if that's
Like, do they have a
society
reason
thing.
in mind?
I don't know if that's a society thing, because like if I'm gonna have your baby, if I'm gonna go through all of this physical and mental trauma to bear your children, you better be able to support me while I'm doing that for you and for us and our family.
Okay, and I agree with Relly, and like I agree with the concept generally, but I'm curious, in your guys' like culture growing up, like in your neighborhoods, how many people did you know who were 21 dating like 50-year-olds, 40-year-olds, 30-year-olds? Like, because that
Zero.
was very
I don't know
uncommon.
Zero.
There were
Zero.
a
I
few
knew people.
exceptions
Um,
of actually like
If it was
50-year-olds
heard of,
dating.
it was Jesus
I'm
Christ.
gonna be real with you. When I was in high school, most of the high school girls I knew would brag about dating 30-year-olds.
Okay,
That's
I knew.
true.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
I think that's like
you know
mental
what's funny?
illness, though.
I
I'm
was
gonna be
gonna
for
say-
real.
In my world, high schoolers dated more college boys than college girls dated older men in my world. So I knew more high school girls who dated college boys than I knew 20-year-olds dating 40-year-olds.
I cannot tell you how many women I know that said when they were 13 they had like a 29 to like 35-year-old boyfriend even.
Jesus
like,
so
this kind of
hard.
thing exists.
Yeah.
Okay, here's the
What did
question.
you just say?
Do you know
So
how
that's
hard? Do you know how hard it is to
grooming.
not have like a what the
That's
fuck reaction and just
grooming.
try to be cool
So that's
and
the
not like
question.
make them feel like shit about
Why
it?
is
Yeah.
that
Bro,
wrong?
what?
Why is
You
that
should
wrong?
make them feel like shit about it.
Wait,
If your,
why
if
is
your
it wrong for a
girlfriends are telling you
13-year-old
that.
to date a 30-year-old?
Or if it's
I'm
legal, why
gonna
is it
jump
wrong?
off a bridge. I'm finding
it
a
wasn't
bridge and I'm
legal.
jumping off
Okay,
it
is it
live.
legal, but is it the legality that makes it wrong, or is it the
No.
age
No,
gap?
it's
No.
it's the
It's not the
assumption that a
age gap.
13-year-old it's the
It's the
assumption that
lack
the
of consent.
13-year-old can't give informed consent. Yeah.
Okay,
Correct.
I have the
What
same
did I just
impression
hear?
of young people who are obviously like easily manipulated by their lack of life experience, but even more than that,
Yes.
their age and their brain developing. I have
Yes.
concerns that people under 25 or under 30, if I'm being honest with you, in America, let's
Yes.
say,
Oh my God,
really
yes.
do have a misunderstanding of what it is to date an
Brittany,
adult. Like,
Brittany.
again, yeah, okay. But like that's my concern is that when you look at a 13-year-old and a 19-year-old or whatever, I get icked out, but I also get that
Yes.
same feeling when I see a 19-year-old with a 45-year-old because I'm like, what are you
Yes.
doing? Boy
Literally,
or girl,
yes.
non-binary or not, what are you
No,
doing with that younger
no.
person?
Literally,
There is
yes.
a
Literally,
substantive
yes.
difference between a 13-year-old
There
and
is
a
a difference.
19-year-old.
No, but here's the
But
thing.
it's not,
Here's the
it is
thing.
the difference, but it's in the
But the
same
thing is,
category of
is
ick
it
to me.
an 18-year-old
There
has
should be a
spent the
different
majority
category.
of
It
their
is
life
different,
being
literally,
a
but it's not.
child. They've only ever been a child for their whole life. They've no idea how to be
Right.
an adult, and you just swoop in and pick them up. They still have no idea what the fuck they're doing. You obviously have more control and power over them.
Why do
but
you think
wanna
anyone
acknowledge
knows
that or
what the
not.
fuck they're doing? Right?
Because
Like that's not
I
the
don't-
that's not the criteria.
Compared to a 25-year-old, to a 26, 27, 28.
As
An
somebody who
18-year-old,
like
comparatively, no.
I think the difference here, guys, is look, my grandma was married at 12, right? To like an adult.
Oh.
Like realistically, no, Everybody, they were both forced into an arranged marriage. Everybody was. It was just how it was.
That's fucked up.
I want to explain something,
Oh
but
my
to them,
God.
this is their normal. So I look at them, I say, we need to stop this. So then it was like 16-year-olds
Yes.
and 25-year-olds, and then it was 19-year-olds with a little bit older, and now it's love marriages. I get the first generation of love marriages, baby, and I want to make sure this is the continue what we continue, but we have to then say, what is a love marriage? What is a love relationship? What is something that's loving? And it's usually making sure that the younger person involved, regardless of gender, does not get taken advantage of, and the older person in the relationship doesn't get taken advantage of, that nobody is actually being maliciously harmed, and that everybody's looking out for each other in a really concerted effort. So again, for me, I don't care what the law says. I'm concerned with what is our intention going into this dynamic. I'm not saying it can't work. I'm saying
I
we
just
need
feel
to
like
be
in large
concerned.
age gaps, there's more room for those intentions to be nefarious.
Well, I don't care. Like,
Well,
I don't
hold
know
on.
why we're
So-
caring about intention here when we can look at, like, you can have the best, most beatific
You can have a
intentions
great
to
age
date a
gap relationship,
13-year-old
sure.
thinking, I'm going to make sure that they're made safe from the world. Your intentions could be all gravy, baby, but that doesn't make what you're doing right, right? It doesn't make what you're doing right. Intentions only carry you so far. I think that intentions would be important when you come into putting a punishment onto someone for what they did once it invariably goes wrong. But even if your intentions are the best possible you can, if you are putting yourself or another person in a situation that is going to be a large potential for abuse and harm, then I don't care if you don't intend to abuse or harm. There is something to be said about you have done it wrong.
Do we not think that there's a
that's where
bigger
the ick factor
potential?
comes in.
Do we not
How
think that
dare
there's
you
a
judge,
bigger
Wick?
potential for abuse and harm in a 21-year-old and a 35-year-old than there is for a 31-year-old and a 45-year-old? Because I feel like there's a bigger potential, is there not?
Probably.
No.
My issue comes where now it
Probably,
feels
I'll
like
take
we're
it.
making
Really.
a kind of almost a separate argument, almost, where we're talking about the maturity levels of like even 19-year-olds and how this isn't very like high enough. And part of the issue is if you don't think a 19-year-old is mature enough to be able to have these relationships, like number one, why? And number two, this would apply to all relationships. If you think that a 19-year-old isn't, so a part of the issue with a 13-year-old having any kind of relationship is they don't know how to have relationships, period. It is bad for them to even have a relationship with a 13-year-old because both of them don't know what the fuck they're doing. They have no idea what the hell they're doing, right? So we could say that, like, hey, you know, it's natural and they're probably going to go through some learning experience. That's probably true. But the whole idea behind like consent and the idea that these people can't give informed consent is they don't know what they're doing, even with each other. They don't know what they're doing.
Can I ask a question? Would you say it's okay for a 19-year-old to get in a relationship with someone who's 45 if they've had 4 or 5 relationships before that, or it's their very first relationship? Would you say that's different?
I think I would have to do it based off the merits of like the person, like them as an individual. What experiences have they gone through, and are they in?
But this is
individually
the
mature?
experiences that they've gone through have been based on those relationships that they've had. They've had 3 or 4 like relationships, long term maybe. Even one of them's probably been like 3 years, and now they're gonna get into a relationship with a 45-year-old. Is that okay? Is that better than them getting into a relationship with a 45-year-old when they've never had a relationship?
Are you stating that, like, gun to my head, I can't say, I have to give a one or the other? Or
No, just say how you feel.
Oh, well, then I would say I need more information.
So
I just don't know.
Yeah, if we're looking at this from the maturity standpoint, would it be equally wrong if I met a 40-year-old woman and I knew that she had lived a very sheltered life? Maybe she's dumb. Maybe she's like borderline, okay? She's pushing that 80 IQ.
I might be
Right.
dumb. No, sorry.
But
She woke up from a coma.
is it wrong for me to... Yeah, she woke up from a coma, maybe. Would it be wrong for me to date them in the same way it would be wrong, quote-unquote, or problematic, quote-unquote, or icky, quote-unquote, for me to date someone who was 20 years my junior?
Maybe.
Yeah, I think that's a strong
I think that
maybe, yeah.
happened.
Probably
I
the
think that
same mental
happened on
capacity,
BoJack.
right?
Can we stop pretending like there's not pros and cons to both sides of this? Like,
What's the... Sell me
Yeah,
on it.
so-
Sell me on the...
What are
Sell
the
me on
Okay, sure.
the just got out of a coma girl,
Sure.
okay? Why
Well,
why
I'm just saying
you're
someone
your
just
mate?
out of a coma?
It's
There's pros
legal,
and-
right? It's
there's
legal.
pros and cons to the different age gaps. Like if you have two 20-year-olds in a relationship, what do you think the odds are of an unexpected pregnancy versus like a 40-year-old and a 20-year-old dating? I bet you that 40-year-old is going to be a lot more cognizant and aware of what it means if you fuck up and have an oopsie, and is at least going to have like money for an abortion.
What do you mean?
I mean that if he's fucking a 20-year-old, he's probably going to know
sorry,
what happens if he doesn't pull out or if she's not on the pill or whatever. He's going to be thinking about these things because he's had enough life to know that I don't want to fucking pay child support.
I was
for 18
making
years.
I was making a joke.
It
was a joke in my head.
Gotcha. And there's also going to be like other things about like reckless behavior. A 20-year-old, I don't. The gender doesn't matter. Is probably going to have less practice at risk assessment in general. Is going to be less aware of like how other people like perceive them and how to like interact emotionally with people. There are pros and cons to both sides of it. It just seems like we're always talking about like this is just this way, but like we don't ever talk about like here's some like really valid reasons why somebody might seek to date somebody.
Do you feel like there's more cons in a large age gap relationship than there is in someone people who are dating like within the same age range, or less cons, or no
I think that I've been pretty consistently saying that I think that age is just a proxy for whatever thing that we're upset about when we see somebody dating.
Do you think those proxies kind of relate to their age?
No. I think
See, that's strange to me, because then how do you relate that to even minors or high schoolers?
Yeah.
Like, what's the difference between a 17-year-old and an 18-year-old? Like, is
Never
it just
ask
arbitrary?
a Mr. Girlfriend about that question, but go on.
So if it's arbitrary, like, how do we make amends with that? Because, like, look, I don't want a 19-year-old.
I can answer you. I can answer that question. I don't think it's arbitrary. I think that when it comes to whether somebody consent or not, you have to go with the law. Because if there's people in an area and the law is whatever age it is, if people in that area think that it's too low, sure, but if people in that area think the age is too low, they're going to be flipping over cop cars, they're going to be burning down court buildings. Nothing people hate more than people diddling kids, okay? If they think the law's letting people diddle kids, they're going to freak the fuck out. And if everybody's chilling at home, drinking beers and having a good time.
Yeah. We have, like, it's very, even in America, there are areas and stuff where you can marry
16, 15-year-olds, 14-year-olds,
even.
$20 from Lawson Harrison to say, would it be ethical to date a 30-year-old from North Sentinel Island? I don't know.
Is that who you are?
Lawson? Is that who you are, Lawson?
Yeah.
I think, look, the way I want to approach this is the way I approach like student loans. I don't know if you guys follow that part of the world, but if I have a 19 or an 18-year-old who's like, I'm going to take out $100,000 for loans, I'm like, hold up, buddy. Like, you are not mature enough to handle this decision. That depends on the country,
because student loans are interest-free in Canada, so.
Great. Like, if only we were all Canadian. But, like, there's that question of, like, it's not that the thing you're doing is necessarily wrong. It's the context begs the question. And then you just have to be, like, do your due diligence. But I will say this, and I will say this again. Though I think all relationships could work in a legal, what the fuck is the law if they're allowing kids to get married? Like, I don't know what that means.
Crazy.
But, like, okay, there is something weird, and I think there's something that I'm happy to explore with myself, and I'll figure it out. Why does someone who's 50 make me uncomfortable to the fact that they're into a 19-year-old?
There's a reason.
There's something about it that just feels so dishonest. Like, there, like, something about it that feels
creepy. It feels scary. It feels uncomfortable. It feels weird.
To both of you, though, to both of you, this is the same feeling, or I would guess it's remarkably similar feeling to someone 50 years ago when they looked at a same-sex couple. It would make them feel.
Well, are the same-sex couples the same age? No.
Like
age doesn't make a difference.
No, you're gonna get me.
I really don't think that's true. I really don't think that's true.
Stop pretending with me that age doesn't make a difference. Either does it make a difference or it doesn't.
Yeah, I really don't. I don't think same-sex couples or interracial couples has anything to do with age gap relationships. Age gap is totally different.
It's literally talking about the development of a human consciousness, like a brain
because
is literally in development.
People have more experience when they're older. You don't have more
not
experience.
Even experience.
Go, Brittany.
Well, what is experience? Because you could be an incel till you're 40 and still have a world experience, right? It doesn't even mean relationship experience. What we're talking about is your ability to problem solve within reason, to make a decision, like committing to this and not being groomed, not being abused. Not that we're victim blaming, but the idea is like
not putting people in a position where they feel like they have to say
yes
to
you because you're older. And why is the older person targeting the younger person? Again, it's not that I'm saying they're all bad. Look, I've had play partners, I've had polyamorous lovers, I've had all kinds of people of all age gaps. But I'll tell you, from my experience, all of them were incredibly immature, and none of them were appropriately acting their age. And my concern,
that's why they're shooting for younger women.
It's anecdotal. I know this. But I'm saying I have a concern that either they're too immature or worse, they're very mature and very calculated.
But see,
I agree. I agree.
So do the
irrelevant,
immature
give
older
it a
people have
try.
to date
But
mature
like,
people their same
I
age?
can imagine 50 years ago. I wasn't alive then, but I can imagine a lot of these same arguments. Oh,
They might
black
have
people
made the
just
same
don't have the
arguments, but
same
they don't ring as
experience as
true.
white people. So when a white person goes to a black community looking for love, like
But they don't ring
true
true.
I just
They don't
refuse
ring
to believe you
true.
guys are using this as an
And
argument.
you probably
Yeah, this
shouldn't,
is crazy
right?
to me.
It just
Yeah,
I
They
can
don't
we
don't
know.
ring
talk about
true.
the power
They don't ring
dynamics?
true.
Wait, hold on a second. Can we?
Don't
Okay,
clip
hold on.
that. That
Wick,
was just
Wick,
stealing.
Wick, I'm gonna take the charitable version of your question. You're talking about like the social perception of this relationship.
Well, the
correct?
argument seems to
Because-
be from the side that is against age relationship from Julie and from Brittany is that it makes you feel icky because there's potential problems.
Not
and
just
we gotta
against
look at
those,
these potential
suspicious.
problems, and I'm suspicious, and it makes me feel icky. And I see you $5 from Cheeky Banter to say it is the same. It's literally arbitrary feelings. Y'all just said
If
it
it
feels
isn't, then
wrong.
we shouldn't
Ask
have an age of
racist about
I'm not sure about that
IR
argument.
relationships. It just feels
I
wrong.
feel like the potential problems that might arise from a hetero or homosexual relationship or an interracial relationship are not the same problems that would rise from an age gap relationship. I feel like the problems that would rise from those other relationships are external, of people looking in and making judgments, whereas the problems that would rise from a age gap relationship would be more internal, where when someone's in their early 20s and someone's in their late 30s. I feel like there's a
Really?
difference there.
You don't think that it's kind of weird that a white man in the like 1930s wants to date a black woman when people aren't going to like hear her out? Everybody's going to take his side no matter what happens.
But when
any
it
kind of
could be,
conflict.
it could
Don't
be
you
a
think it's a
talking
little
today.
bit weird
We're talking
that
about
like he's not
today.
just
You
dating
say-
Wait, just-
somebody
wait.
who's the same
Sexualizing
race
the
but
black
everybody's
woman.
Are we
just going
not
to be
talking
okay
about
with it?
right
Okay,
now?
wait, no. You
Doesn't
say
it
like
feel a little predatory?
it could be predatory. You're right. A white woman could fetishize a white man could fetishize a black woman and target her and use her for her quote unquote ethnicity or whatever. Yeah, that could be a thing. Thank you for bringing it up, I guess.
Obviously, I
that's
don't
what we're
feel this
saying.
way, but that's what Wick was saying. Like,
I
what's
know,
the
but it
difference
doesn't make
here?
sense. Look, are you concerned about young people and old people possibly taking advantage of each other and misusing their power dynamics? Because I am. I'm just concerned. I'm not saying you're bad. I'm not saying you're going to hell. I'm saying I'm concerned, and I think it's weird you're not.
I just
I
don't think it's
that
to the same
concern
degree.
is misguided and that we should be looking out for bad things in relationships if we're looking to help people out with our
I
suggestions.
agree with you.
Wait,
I
can we-
think
can we
it's
Yeah,
bridge
no,
this?
but we agree.
Can we
But we
bridge this
agree.
gap?
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
go ahead.
Give it
Because
a go,
I feel
Aurora. Give it a go.
I feel like we're almost fighting demons here. Because I can agree with Elder
We are
Drazi
fighting
that
demons. We're fighting
because
women.
Oh, true. Yeah, you're true. The
Let's go.
Elder Drazi, I feel like I agree with you with the online like perception and take like the online sphere, because when you see large age gap relationships, it feels like it's just, especially if it's a man dating a younger woman, it's like all hell is breaking loose. Like this is Armageddon. Like this guy is part of the problem. He is the patriarchy incarnate and shit like that. Like whatever. But that's not who we're talking to right now. Nobody in this call is doing that. Right. So like I feel like we're kind of fighting the demons, because I feel like it's valid to go like, bro, you're 54, you're dating a 19-year-old. What's going on, bro? Like you're sidebar, bro. Like I feel like that's a
high
valid
five.
Yeah.
No, but go on.
yeah, no, but like, I feel like that's perfectly valid. I feel like that's what everybody in this call is saying. Like, bro, come on, like, what's happening here? Like,
Sure.
Yeah,
so
I'm not-
my worry
hold
is
on.
the prescription is like, hey, no, she shouldn't be allowed to date him. And like, what if she's actually like, what if there
Is
is
anybody
something
here
no,
saying
but
that?
no one's
Let's start
saying,
with
no
this.
one's saying
Into
that. No
Yeah.
one's saying that.
I have
This
It's
is
not
why
about-
I think
no,
we're
we don't
fighting
even have to
demons.
go far. We don't even need to go so far as to say you're not allowed. Is it like, because I would, and I'm sure some other people would too, we would try to influence them not to have that relationship. I wouldn't physically stop them, but I would, if they ask my opinion, I'd be like, yo, get out.
Okay,
right?
this is a good
Yeah,
question.
you're
yeah.
just
Like, that's a
asking
good
what
question.
you're saying that the thing that we want to change is the social pressure, because realistically that's the only thing that any one of us can actually change. It's like, how much
Yeah.
social pressure do we put on someone when they come to us and say, hey, I'm dating a 90-year-old, right? Like that's
that little
that's
girl. Sorry.
I don't want anyone to feel like they have to break up because their bubble says so, right? I'm not that kind of person. but I want people to be able to take the questions and have the questions being asked and maybe have me be concerned like, hey, I'm just sidebar. I like the sidebar idea. I think that's really reasonable. And I don't like the idea of people getting defensive when they're in an alternative relationship because look, as somebody who lives alternatively, I fully expect it. Ask me your questions. I know it's weird. I just moved countries for a man. Like, I know it's weird,
That's a
but let me
W
explain
for
to
you,
you why it
not
was
gonna lie.
reasonable. And then if the 19-year-old isn't on the same page as her 50-year-old boyfriend or vice versa, I want to know why we're not on the same page. Why don't we know what's going on? Because as somebody who's helped couples, who takes calls with couples, one of the biggest things I've seen in their age gap relationships is I will ask them a question and they have completely different answers.
Yes.
And it's really weird. And the man who's in his 50s and the girl who's in her 20s, like he has this idea that they're gonna be young for a long time. And she has
Yep.
this idea that eventually we're gonna mature. And so there
Yeah.
is a stereotype that I just want to make sure people know they can fall into, but you could be the exception, you could be the anomaly, and I want you to be that. I want you to be the special person.
You should feel free to pursue your age gap relations, but also just understands that there's a lot of baggage that comes with that, and it might not work
That's
out the
fine
way that you're
too. Like
hoping
it's hard.
for.
Life is hard when you're alternative, but I want you to be prepared for your real,
Yes.
like the
I
real
view it like
consequences of your life.
It's I can't stop you from smoking, but you should feel bad for smoking. You should feel bad for
Why?
it. You
No,
should
don't
do
feel bad
it.
Are you
smoking.
judging
Kill
people in
yourself slowly.
the lineup? Wick,
No,
are you
don't feel
judging
bad.
people in the lineup? Because
I
I'm
am-
judging people in the
absolutely
lineup.
judging people.
So,
but
let's
$10,
judge
just
people in the
real quick,
lineup together.
$10 from Cheeky Banter to say, don't get mad. Y'all made an emotional argument. Make a better argument as to why instead of it just feels wrong. Don't say something shouldn't exist because you can't rationalize quote unquote
No,
feelings.
someone was saying that earlier. We should make an actual moral argument as to why age gap relationships. I feel like there's more room in someone in their early 20s and someone in their late 30s. There's more room for abuse than would be in their late 30s.
Can I just ask this
I can't
very
advocate for
important
this,
clarifying
though.
question?
Go ahead, yeah.
This is what it comes down to me. Can you tell me something that you would find concerning in an age gap relationship that you would not find concerning if it was two people of the same age? Because if not, then it proves my point that the age gap is just a proxy for the thing that you're really worried about.
I'll give
What's
you
that?
one. So if, for example, one person owns a house and the other doesn't, in a 20 to 50, I would be like, ooh. But in a 20-year-olds, I'd be like, oh.
So wait, you wouldn't think that there's the same kind of power play happening here?
No.
I would think it's much more likely in the large age scenario. I don't know if that's just a feelings thing or if it's just because I think that it would be more likely
Bathroom.
because good luck with the bathroom. But it's all about what you leverage in order to achieve the relationship, right? And so I think 20-year-olds, not likely something they leveraged. But someone who is significantly older, I think it's much more likely that because they're lacking in youthful vigor and looks,
they might use it above your head to draw you in.
They use it as they're much more likely to use it as lever. And again, this is just likelihood. We're going to look at probabilities here, right? And so I can look at this age gap thing. I can look at this relationship, and I can be like, oh, there's a much higher probability in that case than 20-year-olds. But $5 from Cheeky Banter to say, Wick, didn't the left say love is love? Why is a perfect legal adult suspect for loving another legal adult?
Okay, I want to say clearly, because I don't know, I'm just probably misspeaking. I would never advocate for adults not having agency. So have your relationships and absolutely do it. And I'm not going to say that it's wrong and I would never moralize it as wrong. I don't want to do that because plenty of my friends have age gap relationships, right? But there is a concern I have and a pattern I see in people, and I would like us not to fall into that very human trap of thinking you're so mature for 19. Wow, you're so mature for 21. I've never met anyone so mature at 22. And I feel like that is kind of a cope from everyone involved, and I don't think people are being honest with themselves. And so again, I'm not ever going to advocate for people not to be able to do this. That is not my stance. I want people to be able to have freedom. I just want people to be more honest about why they are in these relationships. And again, since I'm aiming to get people to be less dysfunctional, I find that often in age gap relationships, dysfunction is higher. Not yes, because of the age gap, but not because people mean to be. People fall in love all the time with
There's
dysfunctional
different
people.
spaces in their life, and they want different things.
Spaces, different literally your brain isn't as developed. You're literally talking about I can't even tell you all the things that change in a woman's body by the time she hits 30, just biologically speaking. So again, all things are possible. Just like people are getting married as teenagers in other countries, but I'm saying, is that what we want?
For a roller coaster?
Why?
Oh, because when I hit 30, I'm like, oh, am I in for
Yes,
it?
things really do change. And so again, you were heading into different parts of our lives. I just want to give people a warning of like, have less
Yeah.
dysfunction, but know that every possible relationship could be possible. But again, like I
But
really
that's
want to
my
say
thing
age
with, like,
matters. It has to matter.
That's also my thing with early 20-year-olds and people in their mid 30s. That you have such a big change in between that, right? You have so much learning to do before you hop into that. I feel like if you want to get into an age gap relationship, maybe you should wait until you're 40 and hit someone in your 30s rather than be in your 30s and hit someone who just got out of high school 3 years ago.
I don't think the idea is that somebody's seeking an age gap relationship for its being the sake of an age gap relationship. I don't think that's usually
There's
how it
lots of people
works.
that do
That's
that.
literally
That's
what I know
absolutely
that as,
happens.
though.
Yeah, what?
She's saying if you're looking for an age gap relationship, I don't
There
think
are
that's
people
how it
that
works.
do
There's
that.
people
It's called
who are
trophy
looking
wives,
for-
bro.
Where else would
I
you meet those
mean,
people though? 𝕵𝖍𝖎𝖙, if
that's-
they're not seeking age gap relationship, why would you be around people that much
You
younger
would-
than you?
You would,
Okay.
yeah, you'd literally be in spaces where everyone's your age. You'd be at a
Well,
work
that's-
party. You like,
That's not
what?
necessarily.
Are you
This
gonna
is
go to the club and a bunch of 21-year-olds
no,
around? No way.
no, because there's this. I wish I had the
It was the
sister
way she
Xena
said
here
it.
with me.
Trying to
I wish I had
address.
the sister Xena here with me because she would tell you that a lot of young women will hang around places that these older men frequent specifically
not a
to be around
relationship.
these older men.
But
No,
that's
for
not
sure.
for a
Well,
relationship.
with the hopes of forming it, yeah.
No,
That's
yeah,
with the
because
hopes
they
of
want the
getting
guy who's
money
put
and
together.
clout and shit from them.
Sure.
It's not for a relationship.
That's true. They're looking for a very specific kind of like situation, right?
Yeah.
So again, just like
Mm.
that's what I'm saying. They are looking for an age gap relationship. They're seeking one out.
I mean, also,
Yeah, I mean, I
think that
don't
they-
disagree with that
So
point.
I'm saying
I
like
came in a little
people
bit
who
late,
in
but-
age gap relationships are often, but then the question is like why? Why
I
are we
think the
seeking
majority
it
I
of
out?
don't
people
think
aren't
it's
searching
a-
that shit out, though. The majority of
I
people don't want that.
Well,
yeah, and I don't think
who's
it's
the
an
majority?
emotional. I don't think it's essentially an emotional argument to be pointing out that, like, yes, why is a 50-year-old hanging out with 25-year-olds? I like that. I don't think that it's emotional to ask why is that happening, right?
I think the reason why there's
Regardless of
claims
what the answer is, I don't think that that's emotional.
I think the
Is that just
reason why
me?
there's oh sorry no
No,
I
go
don't
ahead.
I don't think that's emotional at all. I think the reason why there's claims of an emotional argument being made is primarily because we're saying things like it feels weird, it feels like this, it feels when we are giving reasons why it feels weird.
For sure.
It's just this simple statement of it feels weird, it feels wrong. You're gonna get people that say you're making a feeling argument. So instead
Yeah,
of
that's
like
fair.
it feels weird, if we just changed our verbiage, like whatever, and that's my opinion. It's
Well, what
just
should the
a verbiage issue.
what should the verbiage be changed to?
I'm not an optics.
People should
I
be
could
allowed
tell
to
you,
make
but
their
I'm not
decision.
gonna
Reach
like
my ear.
optics Andy the hell out
I
of
think
this.
No,
it's,
no,
at,
sorry,
at
that's
least
just
in
me
at
asking a question.
least in this venue, it's more than okay to make feelings-based arguments because feelings matter. Feelings are important. And gang, what I'm feeling is that we have been going on for a couple hours, and I want to give people a chance to shout themselves out, tell people where they can find them, have these closing thoughts on this, and then we'll open it up for calls. How's that sound, gang? We good?
Okay.
Take some
Great.
callers, take a few callers, see what they have to
Mhm.
say. Maybe we have some age gap in callers. We'll find out. But I wanted to just give everyone a chance to have closing thoughts. Where can people find you, etc. We're gonna start reverse order. We started irrelevant. What you got?
Hi, I'm Irrelevant. I am AH Relevant. I'm on Twitch. I'm on Kick. I'm on YouTube. My closing thoughts about this is, when we're talking about age gap, large age gap relationships, it's sus. I just would figure out. It's not like sus where it's like, oh, there's clearly a predator involved. It's just like this is a relationship that takes a tremendous amount of communication and understanding to be able to really go into. If it's something that both parties or even one party, especially if there's a discrepancy, have when it comes to forming a long term. So there should be a significant amount of communication going into these relationships, especially going through these relationships. My opinion. But there was a little donation that happened way there at the beginning that we didn't really touch on very much. That I just want to touch on in the closing, which was about women, whether or not women in their 30s cope when they talk about these things, or whether or not it's a genuine concern for some of these younger women. I think it's probably for most people a bit of both, but I think it is fair for older women to feel slighted by the fact that they are older, because women unfairly get treated poorly.
I can't
when
wait
they
to get
older.
old.
So
Can't wait.
yeah, the idea that it's just cope, I think it's fine that they're coping because they're treated
So
unfairly.
𝕾𝖍𝖎𝖙, I can't wait.
Well, cool. Age will come whether you want to or not. So I'm glad that you're excited for it. Thank you, Go check him out, gang. Irrelevant with an AH in there. So check him out. He's great. Thank you for being here. Really appreciate you. Simon, Brittany, what you got?
Okay, obviously I want to say it again. If you're legal adults, I want you to pursue anything in life you want to pursue. There's so much joy to be had in life, and sometimes you might be the age gap relationship of joy, and I want you to have that. But if you find yourself wondering, why aren't I joyful and what's going on, it's okay to also ask that question. And I think you might find yourself asking it a lot more if you're in an age gap relationship under 30. With that said, you can find me, Brittany Simon on YouTube.
Thank you for being here. This is a great discussion. I really appreciate you. We'll see what the callers have to say. I see one looking in there, raring to get in. I'm curious what he has to say. 𝕾𝖍𝖎𝖙, what you got?
I'm 𝕾𝖍𝖎𝖙, Twitch, YouTube, Twitter, all that. I do want to my closing thing here to include that I do think that if you're dating somebody who's significantly younger than you, you should keep that in mind. And if you do something that's going to fuck them up, as people in relationships often do, you've probably done a greater harm, because this person's going to, grow and develop into their other relationships with the harm that you've done. But also, maybe just have relationships where you're not fucking terrible to the people that you're with. Be open and honest about your intentions, and do your best to be a loving, caring partner, no matter who you're with. The main reason why I really wanted to come on here was because I think it's insane to see people who are like a 27-year-old and a 20-year-old. That guy's a pedophile. And I see that shit on Twitter all the time. It's bonkers to me. They're like, you're still a child when you're 23. And this performative, crazy nonsense maybe makes me a bit more angry at more nuanced, reasoned conversations. And if I came off that way, I'm sorry. I hate when people get too crazy about some things. I appreciate 𝕾𝖍𝖎𝖙 for having me on here. Although I don't appreciate the only person here who lodged a complaint about my take for being a Mr. Girl fan was the fucking host. I expected all you motherfuckers to be pulling this shit on me. And it was 𝕾𝖍𝖎𝖙. But I get it. It had to be said at some point.
It's
but
funny.
I thought it would be any of the rest of you instead of 𝕾𝖍𝖎𝖙.
It's funny. And no one else was stepping up to the plate. So sometimes you want a job done, you got to do it yourself. Thank you for
It would have
being
been
here.
weird if it didn't come up.
𝕾𝖍𝖎𝖙, I love you. Thank you.
I love you too, 𝕾𝖍𝖎𝖙.
Next up, someone who I also love, Ice Bean.
Well, no, I mean this was fun. I mean, I think I'm basically more or less gonna go back to my position that I had at the start. I think look, do what you want. It's your life. You're an adult. You're gonna take on a bunch of problems. Some of them are gonna be social. Some of them are gonna be logistical. That's fine. I don't think it hurts to ask, like, why someone would do this, or why someone would be in this space looking for these types of relationships. If you check it out, if you assess it and you come out on top, or you and your partner come out on top, that's fine. Do you. But I also don't think that it's wrong to ask why this is happening, or at least make an assessment if something nefarious is going on there. I'm 𝐼𝑐E_beans. A little bird on the screen will come and tell you my socials.
Okay, thank you again for being here. Appreciate it, especially the last minute replacement. So again, thank you for that. Really, really, gang, check her out. She's great. Last but certainly not least, the aging Julie.
Aging?
Go ahead.
Who the fuck?
You said you were excited to get old. I'm helping you out.
I am excited to get old. I am. I'm gonna have great hair. I'm gonna look dope as fuck. Yeah, I'm Julie. I sidekick at Twitter, Instagram, whatever the fuck, blah blah blah. Fun.
Okay. Well,
I got a 6-pack. Let me live.
with that, let's bring on some callers. We'll do it one at a time, I think. And 𝐼𝑐E, you're here first, so you're live. What you got?
All right. So yeah, I think there's a good reason. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
There's a good reason to get into an age gap relationship. That's because you're immature. I think that's actually a good reason, but only if you can admit it. But if you're not admitting, like, so if you're like 35 and you're dating a 20-year-old, and you can admit that, like, I'm dating her because I'm basically like a 20-year-old, like, that's pretty dope. Like, that's the perfect relationship for you. And there's probably, I mean, there might be
Are
some
you
other issues.
advocating for 20-year-olds to seek out 35 and older
No,
people?
no, actually, like very much the opposite. I think
So
that
we shouldn't encourage it. Thank you.
there are never relationships like that where the older person is like admitting like their own like shortcomings, and that's why they're in the relationship. You know, like why they can't find a partner their own age. It's and the red pill community is all about telling men to date younger so that they can groom them into their own like perfect sex slave and their perfect live-in maid. Like they want like that. They think that women are impressionable when they're young, and then once you get them older, they're like set in their ways and they're just used up, and they're a person now. That's the point. They've become an individual, and you want to avoid that by grooming them when they're younger. But I do think that if you ask the right questions, then like why are you dating someone so
Wait,
much
why is that
younger
wrong?
than
Why is that wrong to want to train someone and how to be your perfect partner?
Little,
Okay,
it's
I
predatory,
wished
isn't it?
Is it?
I wish that I was groomed in this way when I was 20. I would have gotten so much further in life, but I wouldn't be the person that I am now because I would just be an accessory to someone else. I wouldn't have developed into an individual. I would be somebody that exists as a counterpart to someone else's grand scheme.
Smith, can you answer the question if a 30-year-old could admit that they're immature to be with a 20-year-old? Can a 20-year-old ever be mature enough to be with a 30-year-old?
That's where, yeah, I'm not quite sure. I don't think it goes that way. I think all the responsibility goes on the 30-year-old. The 20-year-old is 20. Like they're not developed as much. I don't think there's anything wrong with a 20-year-old that's dating a 30-year-old, but I do think there's probably something wrong with a 30-year-old dating a 20-year-old.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
What would be wrong?
Yeah. Like you're just like, a little bit developmentally stunted. You're not where you like should be in life or something. Maybe or maybe you're actually, predatory, and you like one of these like red pill gurus that are saying, you need to groom women into whatever you want.
So let me ask you this. You got a 30-year-old man, okay, who, he's having troubles. He goes back to college. Okay? And he goes back to college, or maybe that's the first time he can get in college. So the people around him are college age, usually.
Yes.
And he happens to develop attraction for a 20-year-old that happens to be going to college over there. Do you think that it would be wrong for the 30-year-old, or there to be something wrong with that 30-year-old for pursuing that relationship?
Kind of, but like it doesn't mean I think it's like he shouldn't do it. I think it's actually fine, but like he should admit that the reason that this is happening, like there could be some weird situations, like the age thing, like 𝕵𝖎𝖎 was getting at, like it's not the age, it's the other thing. The age is a heuristic. Like that is the age is a very accurate heuristic for your development. And like obviously I agree with what some of you guys, I think Brittany said that, I think it was Brittany, that once you're 30, it's like it's not like nearly the same thing. But like under 30, then the heuristic of age like shows a lot of where you are developmentally and where you are in life. So
couldn't the 30-year-old dude just be dating her? Because like, what if the 20-year-old's like throwing herself at him? He's like, oh, sorry, I can't. Like, there's weird dynamics. No, like if she's throwing himself at him, he's like, oh my God, she's so hot. Well, how is this happening to me? I don't even understand this. It's not that crazy to think he's just like, all right, fuck, I'm gonna go with it.
But isn't that an immature answer?
No, I think that it's a realistic answer. I think I think that if most 30-year-old guys went back to college and a 20-year-old is throwing herself at him, like that's an amount of willpower that I just think most people don't have.
Like discipline, and they're like in their youth and they're living out their boy dreams, like love it, but like nothing about that is like discipline or maturity or any of that. And also I'm not saying all 20-year-olds, like you can have a 28-year-old and like a 32-year-old or a 27-year-old and a 31-year-old, or you can have a Relly who's 26 and like an old man. You can have like a 31-year-old,
An old
like,
man.
There's all these options. These
The
old
old
souls
man
out here
wins.
need love too, but there's always going to be an age gap. There's going to be until you're 30. I'm curious on who you'll become, because 30 is a real good marker for people in society in America right now, right? It's just like the way it is. We're not in our parents' America, right? So like
I think people in their 20s are still trying to figure out a lot of stuff. A lot.
I think most people are trying to figure out a lot of stuff, no matter where they're at in life.
I think
like,
when you're in
I
your 30s,
feel
you kind
weird
of
about
get
this
more of
'cause
an
I'm-
idea. I think
look,
you get
Depends on
way
which
more
game
of an
you're
idea
playing.
in your
Julie,
30s.
Julie, I hate to break it to you, but you're gonna turn 30, and then you're gonna turn 40, and then you're
I
gonna
know
turn
I'm still
50,
going to be
and you're
confused.
gonna
I know
be
I'm still going to
just
be
as confused,
confused.
You're gonna
Trust
have
me.
figured some stuff out, but you're gonna
No,
recognize that
I know
there's
I'm
so
still
much
gonna
more
be
that you
confused,
haven't
but you know what
figured
I'm gonna
out
have
yet.
You know what I'm gonna have figured out? The way I want to style my apartment.
You got to have so many different jobs. You got to have this level of education. You got to make this much money. You got to have scraped your knees this many times before you're truly able to understand what kind of person you're looking for in a partner. You got to have all these
Obviously, you can
experiences.
grow
It's not about whether you have to. It's just, or at least I guess maybe not to some people. Some people, I guess, do it regardless, right? Or just go off of looks or whatever else.
It just
right?
seems so weird to me.
You have to know yourself.
but
That's it. You just have to know
Yeah.
yourself well enough to know
That
what you
takes
really
time.
want.
That takes
And that
time.
does take
other
it
than
takes a
being
lot of
teenager.
things. I don't want to say there's one recipe or like one shoe, like it all fits all one size. I don't want to say that. I really don't. I don't want to discourage anyone from finding their joy because they don't meet some criteria. But I'm saying that there's something about life that's really sacred and it needs to be experienced and it looks different for all of us. But it's really about getting to know yourself. What do you know about yourself by the time you reach certain ages? That's the question.
How predatory was my ex-wife?
I don't know. I don't know your ex-wife.
Well, it's 17-year age gap. It seems like we identified that there must
39-year-old
be
woman.
something
we're
and
not
a
saying
22-year-old man?
it
What's
is.
Smeth?
We're not.
I'm curious what Smeth would have to say. Smeth, how predatory was 𝕵𝖎𝖎𝖙𝖘𝖍𝖔𝖜's ex-wife?
I don't know, like, but I gave two. It could be predatory, or it could be that she was immature. I think it's probably more likely she was immature.
Yeah, probably.
But that's fine.
Yeah.
It's fine though. It's fine.
Wait,
She did have an
just to be
apartment.
clear, are we saying immature is anybody that wants to do things that younger people do?
Kinda.
Maybe.
Yeah.
I think I'm
okay.
very
I mean,
immature.
what the fuck up?
In some ways, I think I'm very immature, and I have no problem saying that, girl. Like I'm 34, and I am not ashamed. But that's the thing is, like, I own it because I'm not looking to be an old lady right now. I'm like enjoying my immaturity, but I'm still trying to buy a house. You feel me? But I'm still immature in some ways.
I don't know if I
sure,
agree with that
yeah.
entire. Well, I don't know if I agree with that because I mean, what are we saying is immature? What's
Yeah.
specifically
We're
what-
So-
multifaceted. We're
There's
not singular
different- yes.
Well,
faceted.
20-year-olds or whatever are not ready to settle down. They
Well-
don't want to settle down. They don't want to have a family.
might
They don't want
be,
to buy a
though.
house. They don't want to do
Some
these
might
types of
be.
things.
Yeah, like me.
20-year-old
Yeah, like
Be
me.
for
Some might
sure.
be.
Some might be for sure, but the
wanna be
majority
married
don't
at
want
19.
anything to do with that.
This is a very like super recent, super modern view. 20-year-old back in the day, even just 50 years ago, if you weren't if you weren't married by 25, you were a spinster.
For sure.
You were
For
done,
sure.
right? Like you were done. You were a menace to society, right?
That's my concern, Wick. It's
I want
changed
people
so
to view me
quickly,
that
so
way.
fast. I'm concerned that these age gap relationships aren't reflecting the modern times. Because like
Well, I
age gap
think
was
that's what it
very
is.
normal.
Women have more of a choice
right?
now. They don't want to date these old men. They want to date men their
Unless they
age.
do, and then it's like it is what it is. That's what I'm saying. Do what you're gonna do. Just know why you're doing
but
it.
I think the majority of women don't want to date older men. The majority of women want to date men their age, and that's what we're seeing
Or
consistently.
men on their level, whatever that means.
Yes, yeah, but
which
still
could be younger
closer,
or older.
closer to men their age. Closer
Probably
to
Let's
5 to
bring
10
in,
years is
let's
like the
bring in
perfect
the
age
next
gap
yeah.
to find.
Yeah.
On their
And
level,
Smeth, we're
such
gonna
a
keep
great
you in
way
here
to
because I like you,
put it,
Smeth, and we're
Brittany.
gonna keep you in a while.
I'm sorry.
Oh.
I said that's
Let's
such a
go.
good way to put it on their level. I think that's a much better thing to talk about than age.
Yeah, I
It's a
think
much
ultimately it's
But
smarter way
age
to
has
look at
kind
it.
of
but
a
I guess
correlation with these things, right?
there
Jazzy,
could be.
yeah,
I think
that's
that's
the-
what the thing is. It could be.
Speaking
You're-
of older predators, 𝕬𝖎𝖙, how's it going?
All you
Oh my God.
leftoids, I'm
Can you
so
braid
fucking
your
tired
beard?
of this.
Sorry.
Yeah,
Sorry.
I mean, not just for you, but yeah, this is really terrible. I've decided I'm leaving the left. I'm now a libertarian because my girlfriend's 25. You know, she's not here because she's in grad school, but Jesus F Christ, I am out of here with you leftoids. Come at me.
Who said
How
I
old are
was
you?
left?
Sorry, two people talking at once.
Brittany. Go.
How old are you?
44.
Okay. What do you love about your girlfriend?
She's brilliant and she has a bright future ahead of her, and I want to help make that happen.
Okay.
You gonna pick her up from school when she's done? Like,
I
I don't
She doesn't drive, so
Okay,
yeah.
hold on. Wait. I don't think any of us ever
way.
said that age gap relationships are a definite no. We said that the majority of them don't work out for a reason.
You
If
just
yours is
do what
working
the
out, that's
left
great.
always does. You're ready to cancel me at any minute. Like I could just see
I mean, if we're in
between the
line at
lines.
Starbucks, I might look
Okay.
at you weird, yeah. But like,
what's your claim, friend? Like, what's your actual take here?
Well, no, this is my actual take. Is that age gap?
He wants to
is-
defend
is
himself.
fine. I think that
What-
it's just as likely that someone of the same.
Meth claims?
Oh yeah, sure. I'm a little immature. I'm on Twitch. I'm a Twitch broadcaster. So yes, I'm incredibly immature. But also, I think that age gap is not in a prior indicator of problem in the relationship. You're gonna have problems in most relationships. Guess how many end in divorce?
Do you not feel like age gap relationships give space for more problems to form, though?
Nothing deterministic.
Well,
Nothing
nobody's
even
saying
close
to all.
anything.
No, I mean,
Nobody's saying any of it is
the logic of
deterministic.
this. You know who else uses that logic? The bell curve. Goodbye, racist.
I'll
I didn't
take
think
it.
about it.
I'll run with
Right.
it. Sure, why
he
not?
voided
Alright,
himself. Very cool.
I'll tell you, definitely makes an impression.
I really
I'll
wanted to
run
ask
with
him
it.
a
Why not?
question.
Yeah.
Yeah.
well,
There's a
Wow.
good one too.
I had a question, right? Like last time he was on, he propositioned 𝕾𝖍𝖎𝖙𝖘𝖍𝖔𝖜 to have his wife impregnate her. And that was an interesting business
Oh.
venture.
Can we talk logistics?
But
I don't know if that's. Can that happen?
look,
We need more info. You
Maybe-
can't just drop that out
Yeah,
of nowhere.
I need a little more, Wick. Come on, I'm
look,
trying to get off.
I'm
Can you give me
trying
some
to
details?
process it myself. Okay. Well, let's bring on the next contestant on whatever the fuck this is. Next contestant, hello.
Wait, can I say something about maturity, quick, fast?
You can while this person
Do what
figures
you
out their
want.
audio.
Okay, all right. So maybe it was just my interpretation, but usually when I hear maturity, I'm not thinking just young people do this and then I don't do it, therefore, I like to do it, therefore I'm immature for my age. Usually, when I hear maturity, I'm thinking of being able to take care of yourself or being able to fulfill some kind of obligation or responsibility that is put on you that you should be able to do. Probably if you have your things in order, like your whole life isn't a mess, so you're able to clean your apartment, you're able to pay your taxes, you're able to pay your bills, you're able to do these things. Generally speaking, if you have the financial means, this isn't to say if you're poor, you're not mature.
Well, generally
but that if you
speaking,
have the
early
financial
20-year-olds
means,
are
then
way
you're
too
able
dumb to do all that stuff.
No. I'll give you one, Riley, because this is what I'm curious about. Okay, I agree with you. That's one part of it. That's like the adulting survival part. But then what if your guy like Dutch ovens you and farts and burps in your face? Like, I think that's highly immature, right? Like, I'm not in the mood.
Sure.
But like, that's
flavor
what I
for
mean. Is, like, that
I mean,
could be
unless
fun
you
for
don't
some
care about
couples.
it.
Right. For sure. No judgment, right? Like, no judgment. But I'll tell you this, like when I think of like what is maturity, I'm thinking of all facets of my life. So like what are my habits? What are my goals? Like when I look at my parents, they're adults, okay? They're like serious adults. I am not there. To say that I'm as mature as they are, and stuff like maybe in some ways, maybe when it comes to social issues, but like what does that mean, right? So when I say like what is immaturity, I'm asking what is the lifestyle we're living? And I just think some lifestyles are more immature because they're more childlike. They're more free. They're less responsibility. They're more like, let's party every weekend. If you're partying every weekend in your 50s, even though you pay your rent and have a mortgage and have a child you take care of, your lifestyle is still kind of immature to me. But like, it's fine. Because I watch
Mature
anime.
is when boring.
You know?
Got you. Okay.
Well, that's
Isn't
fine.
maturity just
Well-
a mechanism which we use to shame each other? Like it's like if this person
Again,
says something that I
We're
would
not
only
moralizing
think.
it.
So-
I'm not moralizing it. Like,
So-
like again, you have to know what lifestyle you're in. I couldn't date someone that Dutch ovened me. Like, it's not even an option. I'm not
So,
interested. But it's not
when-
moralizing it.
Shame
when we're
on
talking
you.
about maturity in this context, and we're saying that a 40-year-old or a 50-year-old is immature for going after like a 20-year-old, I think most people are moralizing your use of the word mature there. Everybody's
Okay.
using the word mature.
Okay, I want to
I
make
think
sure that
that's
it's
how
not
most
what I mean.
people.
Yeah, well, the reason the word mature is the primary the operating word is because like it's like a as you age you get more mature, and it's like that is the aging is the mechanism through which you gain maturity. So like it's
Hopefully.
to like the moralizing is coming from like that's not what she's talking about. She's using that word because it's aging.
It's not.
Well,
I
I'm
though.
want to give a chance to our guest here. What's your name? I'm sorry. F. I just got straight in my mind. I can't tell. Yeah, say something.
Flip.
We can't hear you. Hello.
What about now?
Oh, there you go.
Oh, hey.
Sorry about that. Good to see you again, Wick. Y'all can call me Flip.
Flip, gotcha.
Calling in again. It's the second time, but it's good to see you again. I'm in a age gap relationship. I'm not gonna say specifically how old I am because I generally don't talk about my age, but my partner is very young compared to what I would usually find acceptable to
Can you
my
give us
partner.
the gap? You don't have
Yeah,
to say your age.
my partner is 18 and it's over 10 years.
Mm.
Um,
Oh, okay.
yeah, and it is so we met in kind of a like an age neutral space. And I thought they were much older when I first met them. And it was a situation where we really clicked and we were talking. We found we had a lot of the same values and a lot of the same desires. And I spent a good long time thinking, like, am I not like fully should I reject this because of just the age? And I came to the conclusion that
Wait,
like
are they 18 now?
yeah, they're 18 now.
That's crazy.
When
I'm
did
not
you
gonna
meet
lie.
them?
It's hard. And
Uh,
I mean no they
Hard? When did you meet them?
when they were 18. When they were 18.
Okay, so it's a brand
But
new
this
relationship.
is
Yeah.
a brand new relationship. Okay.
Yeah,
I
this
was
is
gonna have some.
I
I was
don't
gonna
I
ask some
don't I don't think
questions.
this is gonna have much relevancy among this because you just met them. They're very young. I don't know.
Well, I
like,
want to. I do want to hear the
I
question.
mean, let Flip
couple of
talk. Yeah, I
months,
want to know.
relatively new. What I'm going to say is it's one of the hardest relationships I've ever been in.
yes.
And that is because we have to be so intentional about our communication and so intentional about what we both want and are both thinking. And in fairness, because we are both aware of like, hey, these age gaps in relationships can go really badly. Because of that, we've had really intense communication. And because of that, it's been really good. It has also been by far one of the most demanding relationships I've ever been in. And so I guess kind of what I'm going to say is like, if you're in an age gap relationship and it's easy, you're probably doing it wrong.
That's probably
Because
true, yeah.
I mean, the level of just we're sitting down and we're talking about whatever's on our mind. It's hard and it's fulfilling and it's wonderful and it's hard. That's what I've got.
Any thoughts on this?
What is the
think it's
gender neutral?
crazy.
Are you
I think
public
it's
about your
crazy.
gender neutral space that you met your partner in?
Not for this conversation, but in general, yes. Not
Okay.
gender neutral, age neutral. You know,
Yeah.
everybody is like 18 to 35 kind of thing.
What was it online?
It was, yes.
That's
Okay.
I think
I
it's,
actually
that's crazy.
okay. So I have a question, right? Apart from like, would you say the difficulties, apart from the one that you just mentioned, right? Where would you say that the difficulty in your relationship comes from? Would you say that like
I
how much
didn't
of and how
say-
much of
I
how much
didn't-
of would oh sorry, go
I
ahead.
didn't say it was difficult. I said it was hard. And there's
Well,
a difference.
What?
aren't those
What?
synonymous?
Yeah.
I would say difficult, like for me,
Effortful. Like you have to put
it
in effort.
requires effort. Yes, it's not.
Okay.
You know, the effort, the communication has felt very natural. It requires a great deal of effort to make this work.
Okay, and so then my follow-up question would be, how much of that would you say is, like, combating like social pressure versus like things that are within your relationship that you have to work on?
I would say a lot of it is combating social pressure.
So you met online, right? You've only ever been talking online. How realistically do you think this like in 5 years? Do you think you're still going to be with this person?
I can't predict the future.
But
And
you'd
I'm
like
certainly
to?
like aware of the fact that, 50% of marriages end in divorce and most relationships end in failure.
Well, also age gap relationships like this tend to, not
I know.
last.
I know. And that's something that's on the back of my mind. But for now, there is a distinct closeness that I never, first of all, I never thought I would ever have this in somebody of that age. And I really considered just at the start
What
when I
made
found
you
out how old they
change your
were.
mind on that? What put it over the edge where you put aside your gut feeling, right? Your predisposition to be like, ugh, I don't know. And what made you set all that aside and said, okay, no, we're gonna actually try this?
Well, it was really having to sit down and be like, okay, who is this person? Why am I interested in them? What are our shared hobbies and interests? And other than the age itself, this really met, most of what I need in a relationship. I'm looking for that shared interest. I'm looking for that, without getting too personal, that compatibility and the level of communication. I mean, I saw my partner now really engaging in really robust communication that I don't see in people my age half the time.
Very
And
mature for an 18.
I don't think any 18
how much-
mature. I don't think any
okay,
18
no,
year
I
old
d-
is very mature.
How
There's
much-
no
how
fucking
much-
way.
how much of that compatibility is sexual?
25% or less.
Hmm.
I would say
Okay.
it's important and relevant in any relationship. Certainly I could not be in a non-sexual relationship, but really it's attitude, it's faith as a component, it's kind of the same outlook on life. And I think that does speak to my immaturity, which I will freely freely acknowledge. I'm definitely a little bit immature for my age, but yeah, it was all of these kinds of green flags where I had to come, like, I've really thought about it. I talked about it with my therapist. I talked about it with my friends. I'm like, I really don't know. And then I came to the conclusion, if I don't pursue this with all of these green flags, am I just making an arbitrary judgment?
How old are you,
so-
and how old is this person?
Oh,
Well, they didn't want to say their
They
own
didn't
age.
want to.
I don't talk
Okay,
about
they
my
said
age.
they were 18. They said this person just turned 18.
Several
They s-
on the back half of
there's
18 at this point.
This is
And-
this is wacky
How-
Oli, my dude.
How
Here
often
it
do you
is.
feel?
Well,
How often do you feel like you are sort of a mentor to them?
We're really intentional about me not wanting to be too much of a mentor to them.
Okay.
Especially
But they
because,
definitely
like,
rely on you for shit because
Well, okay,
And
hold on.
I-
We
and I
rely on
rely
our
on them.
I don't
partners
even
for a
think I
lot.
can
Oh,
have this
hold on, actually-
conversation. I'm gonna
actually,
get offensive.
real.
I'm gonna
Actually,
mute
I'm
myself.
curious.
I'm gonna mute myself.
Is this relationship like is it purely online or is it? Oh, I mean, I know you said something about sexual being 25%, but is this person just online or
we're
is
gonna
there?
we're trying to meet soon, but
Oh,
for now
okay.
it's online, yeah.
Okay.
Which also is not something I thought I'd ever do.
hmm.
So would you
Um,
say like you're in love? Because it sounds like you really have a real strong connection with this human.
Yes.
I think that's really fair that you're having this. Do you fear that meeting them? Because I know I started off long distance over Discord, and I knew that if I smelled him and didn't like the way he smelled, that was going to be it, girl. So like, do you ever fear that you're going to meet them and it's just like not going to vibe? Or do you have any
Yeah.
of those concerns? Yeah.
I'd
I
say
think that's fair.
a very real possibility, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's fair. It sounds like you're really in a moment, like you're going to remember this forever, whether it works or doesn't work.
I think so. I think
Yeah.
when we meet, that's gonna
Never
really make
forget it,
sense.
not even after years of therapy kind of moment. Let's see. I don't know.
I think it's really
I can't
cool that you're not letting other
judge.
people tell you that it's wrong.
A lot of
Is
You're
people
doing
do.
your thing.
A lot of
Well,
people
I'm saying
do.
you're not letting it dictate what you're
Well,
doing.
Well, it's not nearly as wrong as if it was in real life. Okay. So here's the thing. So so if this was so the fact that this is online has a lot less red flags for me. I think that
Really?
yeah. There still could be some red flags, but like once they meet up, I don't think I think the chances of it working out are low. That's what I think. But I mean, I could be wrong.
Good lord.
I don't know. We'll meet, we'll see how it feels, we'll talk about it, and if it doesn't work, it
I don't
kind of
think that
is
you
what it
should
is.
meet. I think that's kind of insane to say that. And I think that, like, literally, middle girl on the panel, I don't know who you are, love you for muting yourself because you have so much more tolerance than I do for this kind of shit.
Listen, I
Because-
had to mute myself because I was about to get fucking offensive.
Yeah,
wait, hold on. Before we get too derailed, I want to bring up a point that when people were talking about maturity earlier, this is kind of what I would have answered, and that kind of ties into what Flip is saying. For me, maturity isn't about like the amount that you have in your emergency fund or something like that, but more so how can you handle situations like do you take someone coming home being cranky as like this is who they are as a person, or can you see that like, oh, okay, well, they're cranky because X, Y, and Z? Can you have a conversation without yelling at your partner? The more interpersonal, like how do you handle certain situations? How do you handle lost luggage? That sort of like, I mean, that I know that that's a more experience related thing, but it's, to me, I guess in a way, you can see that sort of maturity come out of younger people. I think that speaks to what Flip is kind of going through, but I just wanted to know like what people thought of that definition of maturity.
I think that's what's called emotional intelligence.
Yeah, like you can get
Yeah,
a
I
kind
guess
of a
that's
whiff of that from younger people, but yeah, it does. You said it comes from experience, and that's true. It does necessarily come from
Yes, but
experience.
some people.
Nine
Okay, but
times out of
the
10,
problem. I think the problem. I
Nine
think the
times out of
problem is
10, you want to talk about outliers. 9 times out of 10, it's coming from experience. The only
But
people
what if
who are
they are
having
the
this,
outlier? What if they're the exception? Are they allowed to be in
that's
love?
fine.
Usually
Yeah,
those
that's fine. If
exceptions-
you're an outlier,
usually-
you're an exception.
usually-
That's the reason why. You're an
But
exception.
even-
Do what you
Well,
want.
okay,
Usually,
but for
those
example, if you
exceptions
have
are
a-
usually victims of abuse. The reason you grow up fast
Yeah.
is because you were abused. So, continuing to so those people, I think,
No,
need
when
even
I'm
more
talking
extra
about
space.
when I'm talking about exceptions and outliers, I'm
That's
talking
true.
about people. I'm talking about
Yeah.
relationships that actually works because it's healthy, not because someone's abused and dating someone.
There are
But
no
it's-
Okay.
Well, I would
mature
say that, like,
18-year-olds who are like emotionally healthy.
Well, when we're talking about these things
Maturity
coming
and, like,
from,
but, like, at this
realization,
point, a
and
lot
that
of
comes
I
from
feel like if you wouldn't have
experience.
dated them 6 months ago, you shouldn't date them now.
emotionally healthy, right?
Yes, agree.
If
I
you
mean,
wouldn't-
okay,
wait,
I-
wait,
I'm
Simon,
a
what did you say? Can you
40-year-olds
repeat
who
that
are-
for the class?
I said if you wouldn't have dated them 6 months ago, you shouldn't date them now.
Agree. Thank you.
But I understand that people come into our life and we have special moments, and I hope that this relationship gives you everything you need from
You
it.
can
And I
have
hope you
special
guys treat
moments,
each
but
other
you
well.
should
I
also
hope
understand just
that
because you're a
your
special
current
moment doesn't mean you
partner
need to
does
date
not
them.
need too much therapy when he breaks up with you and realizes that
Or she.
he or she learned things in the wrong way from the wrong person that he needed to learn. He or she
I mean-
needed to learn from people his own age or her
Yeah, I
own
mean,
age.
Well,
we all
no,
learn the way
but
we
every
learn.
relationship is a learning experience.
All of them.
Yes,
Yeah.
but there's a certain amount of learning that you get with people who also don't know fuck all. And that's what you need when you're young.
Do you guys not ever enter spaces where people are different ages? Like, have you never worked or gone to a college? Like, you're not.
No, I
always-
have, but I wouldn't consider fucking them
No,
or
I'm not-
dating them.
Listen,
I
I'm
would.
not attacking.
Fucking them,
any-
yes.
Hold on,
Let's
I'm
go,
not,
Smith.
I'm not attacking anybody's position. But the thing is that you can be young and learn from other people before you enter into an age like it. Like,
Yeah, that's what I think that's the difference
I
between
wasn't
the
trying to
age gap
attack, by the
fucking and
way.
age gap relationships. You should be able to be young and have those experiences and learn from them before you jump into a 21 and 35 and try to have babies with this person. You have so much more to
Well, I
learn. Go
was
do
21.
shit. Go fuck
Well,
around.
he was
Babies.
21. Hold on, he was 21. I'm 30. We're gonna be married 10 years next year.
Congratulations.
The thing
Wait,
that-
wait. Sorry. You said 21 and 10 years married?
he was 21. I was
He
30.
was.
Oh,
and-
I thought you meant you got married when
no,
he was.
sorry.
Oh,
Hell
sorry.
no.
I was like
Look,
fucking. My
do-
bad.
Look, I had a line and he like skirted it because I said
Well-
22.
Well, there's always couples that you know come out of these relationships or whatever. There's always outliers. But I think for the majority of people, it just doesn't work that way.
So that's what I.
Yeah, and I don't think that's a hard line either, because I think at that point, like at 30, you're still kind of trying to, like not
I was
only
divorced
help
with
other
two-
people.
I was divorced with 2 kids. I don't want to twist my story. I was divorced with 2 kids. He was
Yeah.
a 21-year-old virgin.
Yeah, but
What?
you have
That's
to
a-
reach
that's
a certain
great.
level.
Oh, you roped him, bro. What?
That's crazy.
He
I
approached
have less
me.
of a
wrote
problem with it
them.
for no good
Wait.
reason whatsoever.
You
I have less of a
actually
problem with
wrote
it when
them.
it's a woman, because it's the opposite of the social like thing that is always happening. Like, but that's wrong of me to think this, but it's some
Honest
weird
man,
feminist.
Smith.
Well, no, I was
Honest man.
actually going to comment on that. Socially,
I have more of an
it
issue
has
that he's a
always-
virgin.
Socially,
I would have more of an issue because he's a virgin as well.
Yeah, that's the big red flag
yeah,
for me.
The virgin thing is it was a religious thing, and so
Mhm.
it was fine.
That's
by
another
me.
flag.
So, well, for you it would be.
Throw him up, throw him up.
Thank the Lord he wasn't trying to marry you. But yeah, like so, yeah, the virgin thing. Actually, I'm gonna be very honest. I was like, congratulations. Like I didn't shame him for it, But yeah, I took several fucking steps backwards because I was like, hold up. This is a literal child. By the way, he's only 10 years older than my oldest. So there's also that. I took several steps back.
You lost everyone when you said you acknowledged to yourself.
Yeah,
You think it's a literal child?
That's a little weird,
Yeah.
bro. That's a little
Don't matter
weird.
anymore.
That's a bit wacky doodle, dude.
You were dating
That's a bit
literal
wacky
child?
doodle.
Yes,
Wait, is
that's
that the
why I
key?
wanted- That's why I wanted to come on here because I was like, this is a literal child. Like, I'm 30 years old, but right?
But then you said I'm fucking.
No, I.
Literal,
we went-
literal
we-
is a bad word to use there.
But no, I'm just because I'm being honest about my thoughts, right? Why come on here and fucking lie about a situation, right? I had all the same.
Wouldn't have been the worst
concerns.
idea.
I've had
That
all.
part.
I had all the same concerns that everybody else had, but here's the reality: he wasn't a child; he was a 21-year-old. He was in the
Well,
military.
you made him a man, right?
Right? Yeah, I did.
that makes a lot more sense
Like
with
you
the virgin
groomed him
thing.
into the man that you wanted him to be, which is
The
fucking weird.
The military
have-
grooms you, so he's
Yo.
pre-groomed.
Yeah, he came pre-groomed. The military helped me.
Jesus Christ.
But
Yo,
no,
your
in all
Yo,
your
seriousness,
face.
we had a lot of, in all seriousness, early on, we did have a lot of problems because of the 9-year age.
But that's what it is with age gap relationships.
Yeah,
they can
so
work. They can work out, but you're going to come with a lot of
There
problems.
are-
Most people don't want to deal with that type of bullshit. They rather date people in their age range.
That's
Well,
what, that's
hang
what
on,
I was
wait,
coming on here
but
to say.
you
Like,
say
there are
it can work
issues that
out.
have to be. There are issues that have to be acknowledged. I took a chance. It worked out for us.
Take a chance
are- you
on
know,
me. Sorry.
That's, but if somebody else doesn't want to, I would understand that. But my point that came on here to make, I understand why people side eye age gapped relationships, but I think it depends on the age gap. If a 70-year-old like fucking billionaire is with a 20-year-old, I'm pretty sure he knows why she's there. And
Yeah.
therefore, I don't fucking care anymore at that point. She knows what, in my opinion, she also knows why she's
Yeah,
there.
there's no way she
So
doesn't.
I
know what's
think
up.
I think it is very dependent on the type of relationships we're talking about. What are the actual ages of the
Can
people
I give
involved.
you a side eye in the Starbucks lineup or no?
Yeah, like that's fine. I side eye people all the fucking time for
Yeah, that's
Wait.
what I want to hear.
It's
I
not about
gotta-
whether
I'll
people should
bet
be allowed to
I'll
have these
just-
relationships.
Boots,
It's
I
about
gotta
what,
go.
what is a healthy relationship?
I gotta
Bye-bye.
go.
Bye,
Okay, I just wanted to say there could be elderly abuse there, but all right, have a good day.
possible.
All right. See ya.
Boots, what were you saying?
It's
I'm
like
sorry.
everybody is saying that like 70-year-olds should be allowed to date 30-year-olds. Like nobody's saying that should be illegal, right? But the problem is whether or not this is a healthy relationship. And I don't think that you can have a healthy relationship with somebody who has yet to experience the world.
I'm
What
just
is
gonna
it
put it
considered
out there.
I think
you
you-
could.
I think you need to define what having to experience the world is, because I can almost guarantee everybody's definition in here. I haven't experienced the world. Like
Yeah,
I don't.
mature.
Okay, that's fine. But
Well, you
other
can-
people
I
would
think
find
you
me
can
to
have a
be
healthy
mature
relationship without
to be able to
maturing.
do that. Like I think
do all of our
sitting inside and
relationships
being
is
able to
great.
do things that are more indoors and not really experiencing the world in a way that
It has
you
nothing
would
to do with
consider to be-
indoors. It has to do with like self-realization, to be able to understand yourself and understand yourself in relation to
Okay,
others.
Okay,
yeah,
but to
you
check,
don't.
I don't think you have to have
People-
romantic relationships to know yourself. I think
But
that's a
there's-
way to
Yes,
know yourself.
exactly. Yeah.
But I think there's
Yeah,
people
and
out
you
there
don't
that
have
just
to have
don't give a fuck
relationship.
and just want to have babies and kids and don't fucking care about learning
Yeah,
this
that's
and learning
fine.
that
And
and
is
traveling.
that healthy? Are
But
you
I
in a
don't think.
healthy
But I don't
relationship?
think. I don't think the majority of people like. I think the majority of people want to go out and go learn and do this and do that before they fucking get into an age gap relationship or get into any relationship in general. Like having a long-term relationship in your early 20s is crazy for
Candies?
most people because they just
No,
want to
that's
fuck
pretty
around.
cool. That's
That's
pretty
the
common
modern-
depending on your bubble.
yeah,
Like, what
that's-
culture are you
Just
talking
real quick,
about?
Just real
Yeah,
quick.
that's-
I
Candies
guess maybe in
hasn't had a
Western
chance
Canada and the
yet.
people I've been around, I would say.
Candies hasn't. Is
I
that
would-
how you say your name, Candies? You haven't had a chance yet, and I see you shaking your head. Now it's your time to shine, brother. Go ahead.
that's
Beautiful,
why I haven't heard ya.
wonderful.
Amazing.
You nailed it.
Beauty.
It was your time to shine. You fucking.
I don't know. I
you
was
fucked
talking
up.
about my bubble. I'll give me
Go
10
ahead.
minutes. I'll be right back.
Nick is on one tonight.
Okay, do your
What the
thing.
hell's wrong
Do your
with you
thing.
today?
Can
But
we
Yeah,
just
so-
say like it's probably good and part of your development to have bad relationships? Like,
Yeah,
Oh,
but
it
I
bad
think
can
if
be.
I didn't have the
relationships-
bad ones, it would hurt my best ones.
But bad relationships with people your own age, because you guys both learn together.
What?
I think
I don't
the
think that's
older
necessary.
women
What do you mean?
learned a lot from me too. All right.
What's your teacher?
I I learn a great deal from my partner every day. I'm just gonna put that out there.
I don't
I-
believe you.
I learned how to manage money.
I don't need
from
to.
Well,
my
that's like,
family.
well, no, excuse me. We have age gap relationships in our lives every day. It's called our parents and our teachers
Yeah.
and our we learn from each
Ew,
other all
Brittany.
the time. I'm
Gross.
sorry. Listen,
Okay,
we
hold
learn
on.
from each
I
other
mean,
all the
that-
time. So there is something
how is that
learning.
relevant? That's not a romantic
Because-
relationship.
Well, because
not-
you're insinuating that the romance is what makes you unlearn, but you can learn things in a romantic relationship regardless of age gap. Like it doesn't change anything just because it's romantic. You're still learning.
But the problem
Correct.
is that it's a reciprocal relationship with an age gap.
Oh, a
relationship,
symbiotic
or is it-
relationship for sure. Like I agree that there's
So,
not
yeah,
maybe
you're
a
supposed to be
symbiotic.
giving and taking, and
Maybe.
with teachers and parents, they're giving and you're taking.
Boy,
Right,
parents
well-
learn a lot about life by raising
their
their
kids.
kids.
Yeah,
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 that,
so
let's
I would
not
argue
act
it's
like
always
that is a
symbiotic.
Their goal
massive
is not
experience
to
that people
learn.
have.
Their goal is to teach.
Well,
No, wait, their goal is to
I
do
would disagree.
both. They
You
they
learn
learn about
from
how
learning.
to be a good parents
No,
and
yeah.
grow from their
I will
kids.
push the
That's
hell back on that.
yeah.
You learn from being a parent because you don't know
Okay,
what
yes,
the
I
hell
know
you're
you
doing.
learn from being a parent. I'm saying that the relationship is one in which the parent is in charge
Yeah.
and dictates to the child.
Sure.
No, I see what
In
you're saying in
general,
terms of
yes.
yeah, I would say that's true that both relationships are happening at once. And in the more romantic relationship, again, the worry is just like the intentionality here because there is that chance for accidentally encouraging the younger person to go around into a journey that they're not prepared for. Like they might not know what they're consenting to, right? And
Yeah.
that could be the older person too. I've met older people who have definitely like confessed their love to me and I'm like, no girl, like you're not in love with me. You're just Mormon and coming out of the church. And like that's not the same thing. So you have to be the more mature person, regardless of age, has to be the one to like put people on the path. But that's the problem is just generally speaking, it's going to be the older person. Hopefully, God, I hope it's the older person who's more mature. You know what I mean? That's kind of the goal.
Not always, but yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, as whoever
ahead,
Flip said, like there are plenty of older people who are less mature, but instead they went with a younger person who they see as more mature, which I think ideally you would
They're
find
having
somebody.
a moment with a consciousness. Just let them fucking have it, okay? Like,
Well, I mean, I think it's wrong, so I'm going to say it's wrong. I think they shouldn't
Why
do
is
that,
it
and I
wrong?
think that they could be like harming that person.
Can I just point out something that I don't think anybody has? I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but it takes a certain mindset to be attracted to an 18-year-old or like even below that. So like,
We haven't
yeah,
discussed below that.
What?
we're talking about like about the red flags without necessarily saying that like
Okay,
it's kind
if I take a
of wrong
picture
for
of
that.
a mature, like matured as in physically matured, not mentally, right? Like an 18 to 21-year-old, and I took that picture and I asked of an attractive one, and I asked guys of all ages, "Hey,
Yeah,
do you
but
find this
nobody's
attractive?"
asking
Is
who
it
you want to
attractive?
fuck.
Right, yeah. Yeah.
I think we just keep referencing like our monkey brains, and I don't know why we're doing that.
Well, I think
Well,
it's kind of
just-
weird that he's
at least-
like, I think it's, you have to have a certain mind to be attracted to 18-year-olds. Yeah, that's why Hollywood never cast them in roles as like the
Yeah.
attractive person ever, right?
Well,
That's
Hollywood
not a
is super
mass appeal
corrupt
to
and
most
like
people.
there's like
Well,
so much
so
waste in
there's-
Hollywood. Why are we using that as an example of good? Like there's
No,
an
no,
advanced.
it wasn't an example of good. It's
Oh,
about,
okay.
he said you have to have a certain mindset to be attracted to an 18-year-old. There's a reason why Hollywood casts 18 to like 23-year-olds in like the sexy person role all the time because it works. It's not selling if people aren't
I think
attracted.
that's more of a
Yeah,
societal
I don't know.
thing
Most
to
Well,
me
people
at
didn't.
least.
Most people didn't realize how young
does societal
Scarlett
thing
Johansson
mean?
was. Like most
If
people
it's not
did
reflective of individual
Keira Knightley
collectively.
was 17 in Pirates.
Yeah,
I know
Keira
we all
Knightley-
had the problem.
yeah.
But with Flip's situation, I think it's when you don't know the age of somebody, because like, look, I used to go to all age parties too, 18 to 35, like the next generation parties. And one time I was in bed with a girl and I was shook to find out she was 19 and I was only like 26, but for me that was scarring because I was like, get out of my bed. Because for me, like I can't do under 21. Like you can't even buy a beer. Like what are we talking about here? You can't rent a car. Like what are we talking about? But again, we're all going to have our different versions of ick. We're all going to have different versions of our limit. So again, it does interest me. Like why would you be interested in an 18-year-old? But with Flip's situation, they weren't interested in an 18-year-old. They were interested in a person they didn't know their age, right?
My base limit is typically 25.
Fair. Like fair.
And if I could have my partner, but 10 years older, I would do that in a heartbeat. Because
So you're like
it's
in love
just-
with the consciousness. You're like in love with this
Yes.
person, and this
Yeah.
person happens
Yeah,
to
but
be
their
18.
consciousness is
my
not
partner
like
could
fully
be
realized.
much older,
Well, I mean,
would
50-year-olds
gladly
aren't
take
fully
that.
realized. So again, I would argue that I don't recommend this, and I doubt it will work for long term. But maybe they don't want long term. Maybe they just want for as long as it lasts, which is valid.
I really like that you said you can't buy a beer. Imagine if I was like, well, I couldn't date a chick that couldn't get drunk. You know?
No, it's
That's
about
just
agency.
weird.
It's about agency.
Yeah,
How
well,
responsible
it's,
can you
yeah.
be? Like,
I just think it's
Or-
weird
or-
to say
or
that like
capacity
that being
to
able to
be
buy a beer is a
independent, like-
weird metric.
That's
It
funny.
came
Like
off as really
from
weird
where
to
I'm
me.
from, that's like what we say. That's like
Okay.
our joke. Like, can she buy a beer? Can they
wanna-
at least buy their own beer? Like, are they adult enough to? Have they at least reached this age? It's just
I
like a
wanna-
saying.
Or,
I
or,
pass
are
it
they,
real quick.
are they,
Hey,
like,
gang. I want to pass it to Fairy Queen real quick, who just got in and hasn't had a chance to speak yet. So, Fairy Queen, now's your time to shine. Give it a go.
Hi, you guys. So I am going to shift gears a little bit. Hello, everybody. Nice to see you all. I'm not going to talk about the predatory stuff. I'm not going to engage with that because I think that that's been juiced to death. What I want to do is I want to turn back to an original question that I asked earlier with my super chat, which has to do, is it morally acceptable to subject your partner to essentially being your caregiver in older age? And a question I guess I would like to ask all of you here before I continue with that. How many of you have a relationship with your grandparents? Is anybody here really close with their grandparents?
I mean, I was before they
mine-
died.
really close,
Heck,
isn't
I was close to all my grandparents before
I'm
they
close
passed.
with my in-law. My grandparents are dead. I'm close with my husband's grandparents though.
So
I'm not close, but yeah.
So my grandfather died when he was about 50, and he died of cancer. That was extremely difficult for my family. My other grandparents, who were much older, who had my father when they were pretty far along in life, also died, which means that I, as the eldest child, am really the only one out of my 5 siblings to have had any real relationship with most of my grandparents. We have only one living grandmother. I know for that many families, it's not just your mom and your dad that takes care of you, right? You have a relationship with your grandparents. You rely on your grandmother. You rely on your grandfather. And I really would like to interrogate something that Brittany said and something that Our Relevant touched on, right? What is the relationship really for? Why are you here? I think that's a really good question. I think it's fair to say that not everybody wants to get married or wants to be in a relationship because you want to have kids or because you want to be married. I do think that that's true for a lot of people, though, right? And if that is something that you want, if you want to be married specifically to have kids, do you want to risk depriving your children of you being there as their grandparent, of you helping your children raise your grandchildren, of you not being able to see them graduate from high school? Because to me, if you're just choosing to be in an age gap relationship, you are sort of rolling the dice that you're not going to have that relationship with your grandchildren, that you're not going to be able to form those relationships. And that may not be terribly important to you right now. It's going to matter a whole lot, though, especially as you get older. I mean, we've been talking about relationships from our perspectives of who we would like to date. But my perspective is a little bit different because I've seen how it affects my parents and their relationship with their parents. And it takes a heavy toll on you when you don't have your parents to rely on in later adulthood. You still need to have access to those relationships. Many people rely on those relationships.
Can I ask, at what point do you think it's too old to have a child?
When your body says it is.
No, but like for men specifically, because they can have a child
okay.
at any age.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know that I've thought out a specific age, but I would say that I think that generally speaking, it seems to be the case that most people typically get married or date within 4 years. That doesn't mean that everyone does. My parents have a 10-year age gap. They've done pretty well. Some people have a 15 age gap and they do really well. I'm not really talking about a number specifically. I'm more asking like if this relationship is supposed to be so that you can have kids because you want a more traditional family paradigm, right? Is having a major age gap really going to be conducive to you forming that family structure? I think for many families, like the potential of losing you as a grandparent is emotionally and often, frankly, financially difficult, right? Parents often rely on grandparents for childcare. They rely on them for babysitting. They rely on them for advice, for nurturance, for resources as they get older. It's not a non-concern as you are getting on in years.
Well, to piggyback off of that, my husband has had to swallow the pill that he will probably never have a child of his own unless I kick the bucket sometime soon. That is the reality of the situation. According to my hormone levels, we need help to have a baby. He knew it. I told him, I'm like, hi, I'm 30. I have 2 kids. Like, I have children. He does not. Does he regret it? I don't know. He's
Insta-family.
never gonna admit it to me unless he's walking out the door,
Bonus
right?
family.
Like he's not gonna be like, I regret this now. But like that was a reality of a situation that we had to talk about because I was like, bro, I love you. I really did not want him to be with me if he was going to be like, let's wait to have kids, because I knew the reality of the situation. What if we
It's
can't
good
have kids?
communication.
Yeah,
Well,
and
but that's a
and
reality that you expected to understand the full gravity of at 21 years old, which I don't think that you really can.
I think that's a weird
Not
amount of
everybody.
responsibility for future predictions. If I meet somebody and I fall in love with them and I want to spend the rest of my life with them, that's a moment where me and that person, I think we have a pretty strong right to be selfish and experience our love the way we want to have it. And it doesn't matter what's going to happen down the road. If this is what we think is best for us, then that's what's best for us. And if down the road it causes weird problems that like are honestly impossible to predict, and it's just maybe more likely, I'm gonna go with that. And I think I have that right to be happy and have like a romantically fruitful life.
that was my
I
husband's
think
stance.
I think that also depends on like society, like cultural factors as well, right? I feel like in America, more people are gonna answer like, well, I'm gonna kind of do it and not necessarily think too much about what my future grandchildren are gonna be like,
But some cultures
because
are
it's
wrong.
more. Well, but like
Wait.
you understand how like you understand how like basically in another culture, like in a South Asian culture, for example, like people are already getting on me like, when am I going to have a child? Because you want to be like blah blah
Yes.
blah. So that sort of thing. So
I don't know if you guys do this, but I certainly do. But like my partner and I made it clear to each other that just because we were in love doesn't mean we were going to be together, because we actually had like a resume criteria for our partners, because we had a goal for our life as individuals. Like we're both grown, we had goals, we had lives already created. So I don't do whirlwind romances anymore. So I think that's also maybe like the planning in my brain is like I don't not just because of babies, but because of my
You had a
life.
checklist
I
that you made
think
him like
Yeah, I have a
initial?
checklist. Yeah,
did you do like an
exactly.
interview?
Yeah,
I
like
think
literally a checklist.
You
So
don't
I
have
think-
a checklist, Wick?
Not
I
so
think when
specifically
I'm just saying, like,
as
even if you
that.
fall in love, it doesn't really mean anything in terms of cohabitation or commitment or long-term relationship. So like every type of
True.
relationship will require different things. So I
Look,
feel
I
like
think
we're
I'm
not we keep like moving
expecting
around
something.
that, right?
I'm not expecting something, but I also want something at the same time.
Well, I expect something because I want something and I need something.
Yeah,
So
I
like I
expect
either get what I want or I'm like good to go single. And then I'll have like loverships and short-term relationships and stuff. But like if we're talking long-term commitment, I'm gonna move my life around you. I got a checklist, you know?
People can make changes for you though if it's the right person.
Well,
Right? If
there's-
the values are aligned,
there's-
sure.
Well,
Well,
Brittany, do you agree? Like, there's deal breakers, and then there's stuff that's like, maybe this could be. I think that's really all you're talking about, right? Because I've heard
Right.
you say before, like anything, like you are set with like what you believe and structures like that. Like, so obviously, you want to find the person who shares that, because the age doesn't matter. If you don't share the same foundation, your relationship is probably going to shit. That's the
So
reality.
I agree with that, but I will say for me, age is a factor. So I don't
Oh
date.
yeah, no, that's
Yeah.
fine. Yeah.
Yeah. For me personally, I just find like I cannot get it through my head. Like I've never met a younger person that I thought was interesting. I certainly didn't like them when I was young.
Damn.
And then on top of that, like I already like
Damn.
I've dated younger. I'm okay dating younger, but not like beyond like 5 years really.
So
Right.
I'd like to touch on that too. I've, and this is not to, I don't want to be negative about anybody's
Be
relationship.
negative.
But
Do
You
it.
can be negative. Some of these
This is why I want to hear more
relationships
from
are
Boots.
really
Boots
toxic.
is
but I
Pause.
think but I think that when we're talking about being in a relation, I've heard many of these conversations. We talk about them about in terms of a contract, like what we can negotiate, right? I want this and you want this, and we can meet together. And I think that that's a fair and very reasonable way. But I also think that there are many aspects of being with somebody where I'm not there just to get something out of you, right? I'm not there just so that you can give me something. I'm there because I want to give you something, right? I don't want just to get something out of you. I want this to be something that is for you at the same time, right? Like, so when I'm thinking about dating somebody, I'm not just thinking about what situation is going to be best for me. I'm also thinking about how can I be the best person that this person needs me to be, right? And I think that that's a very reasonable way a lot of people approach their relationships, right? I mean, I've known people, I mean, just for me personally,
Look,
like part of the
younger
reason I
people
don't.
all need an older mentor. That's all I'm doing.
Yeah.
Right?
Well,
They
it's
all-
It's good for me to be 50
Yeah,
and you
it's
for
not
you to
mentoring
be
somebody if
18.
you just stick your dick in them. Wait,
If
sorry.
I ever had to look at my husband like I was his mentor, I can't say on.
But it's I'm not really.
I can't say on Twitch.
You are
that
his
I did.
mentor. Like,
I'm
you're
not talking-
teaching him about like what life is because he didn't know life before you.
Well, he knew his life. He knew he wanted to get
And
married. He
life,
knew he,
which was very limited. Like, did he
Right,
drink
yeah.
Almost
I
condescending
Hey, just
yeah,
real quick, stop, stop,
I'm
stop,
kind of
stop,
taking
stop.
issue with
It's
how
not
dumb
honest.
you're
It's
considering
not
every
Boots.
spent 20
I want
years.
I want
really
Boots to
true.
talk. I want Boots to talk. I want everyone else to listen. Boots,
Like,
your time to shine. Go
which
ahead.
of you guys at 21 years old knew life, like understood who you
Barry, you
were?
have an echo.
Okay, but I
I
don't know if I believe
You're
you, but I
autistic, though,
yeah,
will
you
respect you on
we have
that.
personal problems, so with that
Yeah.
aside, then like
Well, we don't have
You might
personal
have a
problems, and you
definition
raise
that
your hand, I
precludes
just think
me
you're
from it.
autistic, so.
No, I mean, like, you might have, and that's fine. Like, that's excellent for you. But I think the vast majority of people at 21 are like either they're getting out of high
Sure.
school and going directly into the military, where they don't have the chance to experience like the trials and tribulations of like everyday life, and they don't learn how to interact with people in the correct way, and they don't learn about themselves. They
High
just
school to
learn about what
military
they're
is the
supposed
average
to do.
experience.
I didn't.
No, I'm referencing
they're referencing
I'm referencing her
Okay.
relationship.
yeah,
Or
the
they're in like uni just having to follow the same template as they did in high school without ever like having the chance to grow on their own. And I think that's really important.
But I think that's also assuming that every human is exactly the same. We can talk
Yeah.
Can I
about
roll
I
down
mean,
the hill
humans
with the
are
ball
the
really quick?
same. Yes, humans are the same. Like
No,
everybody has
eight
different
billion people on the whole-
experiences, but we're all
Well,
different.
You might be cookie cutter, but the rest of us got personalities. No, like people are individuals. Like people experience life uniquely.
My husband knew he
21-year-old
wanted to be
people are
married
getting
at
married.
12.
Yeah,
My
I mean,
husband knew at 12 he wanted to
uniquely
be
when you
married.
like
That was the
when you're
thing.
differentiating between people, but we all have similar life experiences enough to be able to talk about them, enough to be able to call what you have is what is it?
You mean
You're
like
not
relate
bipolar, it's
enough to relate to each other, right?
yeah, enough to be able to say this is a classification of people, this is a problem that people have, this is something that we should do for these people. Like that's what we do for people. We all have related experiences.
Yeah, but like Christian, like people like my brother got married in his 20s with his wife and they have 4 kids and they make like 100K and they have a farmhouse and 20 acres. Like it's not the same. They're living a totally different life than me. I needed to have many relationships. He needed to have like one. Like, he needs to have like maybe 3 max. She needed to have one. He was like, that was her first real relationship, right? Like not everyone needs the same thing. But I will say generally, like depending on the bubble you're talking about, sure. But like the Christian bubble working different.
Okay, but those two people have grown together.
There's a little bit of an age gap, but sure. Like, yeah.
I mean, if it's his first relationship and it's her first relationship, then that seems to be like fine. They're learning each other and learning about other people through that relationship. So like, there's nothing wrong with that. I don't see anything.
So we're
wrong.
good. So it's not the age gap. It's like if there's a 40-year-old virgin and like a 21-year-old with no experience, they're good to go. Just checking.
Yeah, but I think that's very rare.
Interesting. Okay, then okay.
I agree with that.
Yeah, I'm more willing to accept that but that kind of gets back to Drowsy's point that it's just a proxy anyway, which is
Do you guys think it's weird if somebody is married to their high school sweetheart and that's like the only relationship they've ever had?
Yeah,
I think that's fucking
to be perfectly
wild.
honest, a little. I think they would probably serve both of them a little
If they
better
get to
if
have a
they-
little more experience, a little more fun.
if they, we're out there. I know I personally am uncomfortable with the idea that the person that I'm with, I'm their very first and only relationship. I'm a little bit
Yeah, I don't like that. They're gonna expect too much of me.
I don't mind it partially because like the person like I had relationships, right? But for the most part, any of my what I would call adult relationships was with one person, and I dated that person for 13 years and then I married him 2 years ago. So like we very much grew together.
Sure.
Yeah.
I guess maybe I'm biased because I'm on the side of our relationship is good, but I don't think that's necessarily a red flag. I
don't think it's a red flag either. The question was, is it a little weird? And I think I think
So no, I have a question. Because this is an interesting spin on things, right? Because so Boots, what you're saying is that the experience differential is the thing. Someone with a very little experience and someone with a lot of experience creates a problem. That's basically it. So basically,
It's like you're imprinting your experience onto
you
somebody
would
who's
want
less
a woman with a
experienced.
high body count going with someone a man who doesn't have as high.
Can you not phrase it that way?
But
I mean, that's a
what
perfect analogy, no?
No, it's not.
Yeah,
High body
that is
count has
literally
nothing to do with how much
What?
experience in relationships
What?
that you have.
Your
has to do with
sexual
emotional
experience.
My
maturity.
husband was a red flag because he was a virgin, and now it doesn't
Wait,
matter.
yeah, wait, that's
This is
wait,
not
that's so
that your
what
husband
the
was
fuck?
a red flag because he's a virgin. I said
No, I'm not
that
you
this is about
specifically, the
emotional
panel.
maturity. And you develop emotional maturity by having emotional connections with other people. So no, it's not about body count. It's not about how many people you fuck. It's about how many people you are
think
able
how
to
many people
connect
you
with
fuck
and
doesn't
learn
relate to
from.
your
Wait,
emotional
hold on.
maturity?
If
No, it
I can,
doesn't.
wait, if I can agree with the idea that the amount of people that you can have a very close relationship with and build with is a part of your maturity, then I don't understand how at least your sexual experiences and those people that you could learn from wouldn't correlate with that.
What do you
How would
learn
that
by
not
having a
correlate?
one night stand?
You can learn whether or not you like one night stands, how you like one night stands. You
What
can
do you
learn
learn
about
about
like actually,
relationships?
you're going to learn about actually interacting with people to be able to get to that point. Like, what do you mean? There's a lot of people who
So you
literally
learn how
just
to
don't have the
how to
social
pick up
knowledge.
people and how to like make people come.
Well, it's
No,
also
wait.
not
Let's
just
not be
that. It's not just
reductive. Like,
that.
let's not be reductive like that. Like, for instance, my roommate, absolute @𝕾𝖍𝖎𝖙. He's really good at being able to have people come over, have a really nice time, and be able to potentially sleep with them in one night. And that it's not like he's just like, oh yeah, whatever. No, he's really good at being able to make people feel special and have that moment feel really unique and impactful to these people in a short period of time. The idea that this isn't useful or a skill. In regards to that, I think he's very mature.
Just like in general. Like,
in general, I think he's very immature.
So
Yeah.
do you think that like, so if he's had like a bunch of experience, if we're translating this, do you think this would be like, would you put this next to like a 40-year-old woman who like dated?
Well, no, because this breaks down because I have almost
Doesn't-
no experience and I consider myself to be very mature. You disagree with that. I know we got problems. But like in contrast, right, I'm somebody that's actually a homeowner, recently sold my house, right? I'm taking care of my Alzheimer's ridden mother and help with my brother, right? The idea that like the people need experiences to be mature. Like this dude, both of my roommates should be infinitely more mature than I am. But the fact of the matter is they're not.
The experiences
They're
I'm
having
talking about.
Wait, what kind of experiences are you talking
I'm talking
about?
about experiences where you emotionally are able to connect and sort of do.
Yeah,
like
one of them's married. One of them's married.
Off, yeah.
Do you think that's more experience than me, whose like longest relationship was like a year and a half?
I mean, yes, when it comes to like.
So why is he less mature
as long
than
as it's
me?
a good marriage.
So why is he
I'm
less
not
mature
saying-
than me?
I'm not saying he's less mature.
Okay. I think by most people.
maturity is buying a
maturity
house.
different.
I'm not going for that.
All right. Yeah, you're right. We are defining maturity differently. I don't know by what metric I would be less mature.
I mean, I don't think
That's been
being
this whole
mature is
discussion.
like being what your parents did when you were younger, or like what the ideal was. I don't think that's maturity. I think maturity is being able to understand that and understand other people and understand yourself, most importantly, and understand how you can relate to other people.
So then
So you think he can't relate to other people? You think he can't? Like, what?
Oh no, really? Like, are you trying
Yeah,
to make
my issue.
Beef about him being immature?
Yeah, we have some long-standing beef.
So what is the?
No, I want to get Julie in on this beef. Julie, what do you think of Boots?
Let's throw hands. Let's throw hands. Let me in here.
Julie, what do you think of Boots that's saying irrelevance immature? What do you think of that?
Well, I need to know, like, what exactly about him do you think is immature?
I think that he doesn't understand himself as well as he thinks he does. I think that he understands maturity as a goal to reach. That's something that, like, you can do by doing these specific steps. And I don't think that that's the case. And I also don't think that he's able to relate to others in a healthy way yet. I think that he still thinks of relationships as being very transactional, and I think that's a very immature way of looking at relationships.
So you think older women shouldn't date irrelevant because he's too immature at this point?
How much time have you actually spent like interacting
No,
with
don't
him?
take it from me, Wick. Come on.
No. How much time have you actually spent like interacting with him and like getting to know him and like seeing him as a person rather than these debate panels? To make that type of critique.
Yeah, no, I haven't because I don't live close to him, so we don't hang out.
Okay.
But all I can go based on is, you know, the 8 hours a day that's streamed, and the conversations that I've heard with people who disagree with him, which is all we can really do for any of the people on this panel. So that's what we're talking about. We're not talking about people that
hold
we know
on.
personally.
And I to add on to that, to be fair, like even if we were talking about an age gap relationship, all we can go off is like what either what they tell us, like what with Flip here, right? Or if we see them in person, all we are seeing is like the very small window into their lives. And we don't have like half of that.
That's what I'm saying. You don't really know this person to make these type of judgments.
We're looking at this
yes
space.
and no,
like,
right?
what are you-
Relly is one of the
No,
most
no, no.
mature people I've ever met in interacting in this space, like by a mile. Like you
Yes,
are.
I agree.
I don't know anybody who I think has ever spoken about their own experience in such a genuine and like introspective way as him, and that's one of the reasons why I really like and respect. That's what makes him stand out to me. If
Yeah,
that's
I think
not
that
like
he's
maturity,
on
then
the way
I
to
don't know what we're
maturity,
calling
but
it.
Check your PayPal, $20 right there, Drazi. I appreciate the shout
I
out.
second that.
I think that's not to say that he's not mature either, right? It's just that he just doesn't meet like Boots' definition of maturity.
What I said earlier, maturity
Right.
is the thing
Sorry,
that we use to shame people when they don't
wait.
think like we do. That's it.
Wait,
That's
hold
all
on.
people
Can I get
wanna use
Boots'
for.
definition one more time? I'm a little confused.
Yeah, so it's more self-realization, like being able
Uh-huh.
to look at yourself and say, okay, well, these are the things that I want, and these are the things that are important to me, not because they were told that they were important to me, but because they are genuinely important to me.
Isn't Irrelevant one of the most picky people online? Isn't that why he's an incel?
It has nothing to
Because-
do with being picky.
Wait,
no.
what? Wait, isn't
no.
knowing what you
Sounds
want
like
and
you're
then not
insulting.
settling? Wait, isn't knowing what
but-
you want and not
Yeah, but
settling for
picky
anything?
has like a neurotic connotation. I'm not saying like
Sorry, maybe I'm
he's
using the wrong
discarding
words. I'm
people
trying to
because of-
understand.
Okay, can we maybe settle on choosy? Would that be a better?
Well, let
thing?
Boots say what she's saying.
selective.
No.
So
like that's but dismissing people because of like these silly traits or like saying that I don't like this but not
Silly
that you're doing
traits
this
like
but
age?
because of no, not
I love you.
just age. Age is a
No.
significant trait.
wait, but hold on. He's just picky. Does that make him immature for being picky?
No, I'm. The reason that I think that he is immature is more specific than that, and it's the way
Okay.
that he generalizes like women and the dating market, and this is the way that it has to be. And when you interact with these people, it's just going to be like this. Even if you don't like it, this is what is necessary. I don't think that that's mature.
I don't want to turn this panel into just me. If you want to have a back and forth about those
if I
specific
can-
claims, we can.
I think the disagreement is very obvious.
if
but
I
I'm
can
not going to
hop
get
in-
into it.
If I can hop in for just a second, so I just like to say, Boots, you're lovely. Irrelevant.
I love Boots.
Irrelevant. You seem to be a very introspective and thoughtful person. You seem to be very mature to me. I like both of you. I hope that the bridge, if it is burned, that it will be built.
I'll
But
rebuild it myself.
But I will say that I do want to back up what Boots is saying a little bit, and I don't claim to have a definition of what it means to be
Hashtag
mature.
Team Boots
what
coming out
maturity is.
strong. Go ahead, Fairy Queen.
Well, I don't claim to know precisely what it is to be mature or what it doesn't mean to be mature. What I will say is I do have experiences like in my early 20s and when I was 19 of dating people who were older who, frankly, if I had been at the same age as they were, I probably would not have dated those people. I probably would have made very different decisions if I, instead of like being 19 and dating a 24-year-old, I was 24-year-old me dating that same 24-year-old man. I don't think I would have made that same decision. Now, what precise experience required me to make that different decision, I don't know. And I don't claim to know specifically what it was. What I'm saying is, I think that experience is one that a lot of people can relate to. That if you had been in a different position, if you had been at roughly the same age as that person, you might not have chosen to date them. I think that's all we really mean when we
If I
say
may,
probably informed by your
just real quick,
experience
if I
dating them
may,
at that
Fairy
age.
Queen, that isn't just about age. Like, I can imagine a situation if I'm in a different socioeconomic status where I would make different decisions. I can imagine if I'm living in a different country making different different.
Hey, but we're talking
situations.
about
If the
something that
circumstances are
necessarily
different,
changes.
yes, I'm going to make different
All of those affect your maturity.
I infected your brain. You said changes.
Yeah, I know you infected my brain. I got brain worms, and you are the source. It's a CTD
Can I dig them up and use them for bait? I'm
yes,
trying
you
to fish.
can. You can dig my brain later.
May,
But the whole point is, right? Like, we can all imagine situations where if we were not in the same position we would make different decisions. But I don't think that, like, that's necessarily the fault of age as a rule, right? Like, I think that's just going to be, yeah, if you're in a different position, its variables are different, you'll make different decisions. Yeah.
Everybody's parents raises them differently.
But I guess
It's kind
that
of weird to use age as a jumping off point to say if things were different, then things would have been different. Like, yeah, that's everything.
But to me, and maybe I'm just hopelessly romantic and silly about this, to me, when you're choosing your partner, you're choosing them because despite the circumstances, in spite of what circumstances may come, for better or for worse, in sickness and in health, they are your person. You love them and you don't care. And if they were hit tomorrow by a car and that, God forbid, they were in a wheelchair, you'll be with them, right? I mean, that to me is like what it means.
I think when you're getting into that relationship, there are certain things that can turn you off, and age is definitely one of those things that can.
It's not just turning off, right? It's about this. There are lots of people who you can feel attracted to.
Sorry, I say turning off not as a sexual thing, but turning off is like maybe I shouldn't be in this relationship. They're 15 years older than me.
Well, but like I think that it may be very legitimate that you might find your person who might be older than you.
Yes, I agree 100%, but I don't think that's the majority.
What I'm saying, no, I don't know that it's necessarily the majority either, and I don't think the data points that up, because I think most people wind up in relationships with people roughly within that 4-year age gap.
100%.
But I think what I'm saying is that's why I think it matters to me that looking retrospectively that I wouldn't have made the same decision, right? Because I want to be with a person who, regardless of whether their hair is white, regardless of whether they become disfigured, regardless of what happens to them, I have chosen to be with them because of who they are, whether we're poor, whether we're rich, and whether they are all the way across the planet.
Whether they're 40 or whether they're 20, right?
Well, I mean, in some cases that might legitimately be the case, but I think
don't know, though. I don't think it's the same for me. I think if I was
such
at
a strong case
bar,
for age gaps and then pulling back only on age gaps here, that's so weird.
Well, I think what I'm saying is the reason why I doubt the age gap is based off of just personal experience and based off of relationships that I've seen and witnessed, right?
well, as age gaps widen, relationships as age gaps widen, statistics seem to show that relationships suffer more as age gaps widen.
This is I want to point out this chatter. Portland is burning says forget body count. How many WhickTV panels has she been on? I think that's
I've been on 7. This might be my 7th now, Wick. I've been keeping count.
Yeah. Yo, you ran through.
7's my lucky number, baby.
Rest in pepperonis.
Okay.
Can I ask a question, Wick?
Yes,
I just want to
please.
say, because I just want to know, do you guys think we put more responsibility on romantic relationships and like being president or less? Because you have to be 35 to be president.
Yeah.
Like, are we saying
you should be older to be president of the United States?
I'm an
I think we should
when it
remove
comes
that
to
that restriction.
I almost think you should be older.
I'm just saying, I wonder what responsibility we're really
To be
really putting on
president
people
of a
to
whole
bond.
country? You should
So
be
that's-
between the ages of 40 and 60. No later, no earlier.
Okay, I don't know if we want your reaction.
Yeah, what
on
the
that.
fuck?
But like that's what I'm saying. I wonder
topic
why
for
this
next
conversation has become like all of our biggest fears instead of what are we seriously dealing with and
Can
why.
I ask you guys something? Did you guys see the Canadian Parliament giving a round of applause to someone that's a
The
Nazi?
93-year-old Nazi, yeah.
Oh wait, no, but it makes
that's
sense
so
though.
funny.
It makes sense to be concerned about relationships because relationships are really formative for how you interact with other people. The president doesn't matter in my daily life, but my partner does.
Well, the president does matter in your daily. He runs the
No, he
country.
doesn't.
What?
No, he doesn't. How old are you?
Me?
Yes.
25 and retarded. Thank you.
Okay, I get the second part.
Thank you.
How old are
I
you,
just feel like
Boots? I'm
relationships
curious.
are
Since
also
we're asking
non-romantic.
ages. How old are you, Boots?
Oh no.
I'm 30.
You hit the wall.
Really?
Gotcha.
I think I'm.
Oh my god, Wick.
I'm-
Jesus.
Oh, okay, I
oldest one
passed the
here.
wall. I've ran into
Boots,
the
you're
ground.
not 30.
I'm never
There's
gonna
no
forget
way.
that you said that to me, but okay.
Also, wait, hold on. Can I say something? I'm also Canadian, so American politics don't matter as much to me.
Oh no.
That's fine. I'm Australian, so American politics
Ooh,
matter not at all to me.
but none of
Okay.
you.
Are you?
No, Australia, Britain taking over. Let's go.
I have a tangential question for
Flip,
for
go
Boots
ahead, give it a
and
go.
Sad Kit Kat, just because I'm trying to understand, because I do
Sure.
live in the U.S. and Boots, I know
Mhm.
you said the president, or I don't remember which one of you said the president really doesn't affect your life. The president is a
That wasn't
huge
me.
fucking deal in like lives down here. Like they can really fuck up a day. Is that just how things are in Australia and Canada?
No,
It's
not
totally
me. That
irrelevant.
no,
No,
but
but I'm saying
the
that
prime
the-
minister definitely fucks things up in Canada.
Yeah, like
But yeah.
I mean, they can be very influential, but I'm talking about in your day-to-day life, you're going to have more interactions like with your partner than you
I'm
are with the
actually-
That's fair.
president.
That's
So
fair.
that's
I'm
why
actually
that
on
matters
Boots'
more.
side with that one.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We-
that makes sense. Yes.
Bro,
That's
how do we?
crazy.
Sorry, how did we get from
We
your
got on the
relationship with your
president.
twin to your relationship with your fucking president?
You did
Sorry.
this.
Did I do? Did
No,
I
did
do?
Brittany,
it.
Brittany did it. Brittany did it. Blame
I'm
her.
Okay,
asking
Brittany
how much
did it.
responsibility we
Baby
put on
girl.
people.
Damn
Can
you,
we talk
Brittany.
about if an age gap relationship with your president is okay or not?
Oh
Panel
no.
for next time.
I think if
Lynn.
you want a really
Yeah,
old
Yeah,
president,
okay,
you just want a
okay,
daddy.
okay.
Switch
We
up.
kind of
Lewinsky the
circled the
style.
drain here. We've kind of
Okay,
milked
wait,
this
hold on,
cow.
wait. I have some really quick.
Okay,
In
really
some
quick.
ways, age gaps are a problem. When you talk about grooming, predatory things, or whatever, we all
Very
know it. We all
echoing.
see it. I don't think anyone disagrees. But for a lot of people, such as myself, it was when I put the age aside that I got to actually know this man and realize, holy shit, these 30-year-olds that I'm trying to date, this is the actual person that I want. He is what I want. And had I not put that age aside, that would have been the problem. So to me, I feel like it's more of a preference. If your preference is nothing below this, mazel, because that's your preference. But I don't
Yeah.
think we should
What about
automatically
nothing above
side
this? as a
or
preference?
nothing above. It's a preference.
I think the
don't
majority of
mind
people-
You
doing
can
that.
judge people's preferences.
But
Absolutely.
so that's what I'm saying.
Based-
If you side eye somebody for it, that's your right to side eye for them for it. I have no problem with that either. I'm just saying, like,
I think the majority of
they're
people
not- they're not all
don't have
predatory, that's
preferences for these things for a reason. Right?
Repeat that.
The majority of people don't have preferences.
Wait,
Fuck.
I think
Hold
the
on.
majority of people have age preferences.
No, they
Yeah.
don't. They don't have a preference for someone that's way older than them for a reason.
Perhaps.
I mean, don't a majority of people have an age preference for somebody around their
But
age?
there's a 3 to 4 year age preference. There's not a 10, 15, 20 year age preference for a reason.
Yeah.
And on that note,
Yep,
gang,
well, this-
on that note, I am hungry, tired. I have appreciated.
Some ramen. He's making ramen.
I
He's making
already
hot ramen
made
on the stove.
I'm gonna have pizza. I think I have a stuffed crust.
Let's
pepperoni
go!
pizza.
Yes!
I'm gonna
What kind of
stuff-
pizza? What kind of pizza?
Stuffed crust pepperoni pizza. I don't know what to tell you.
No.
Right,
Hawaiian's way better. You should feel bad about yourself.
Well, tell you
Kick
what,
her.
you make me a pizza and I will eat that pizza. But until you make
Okay,
me a
I'm
pizza, I'm
popping
gonna
up
eat
with
the pizza.
Hawaiian. What are you
Fair,
gonna
fair
do?
enough. Okay, well, you know what?
I
we'll
said
see
to eat
when
the
I see it.
pizza.
But for now, gang, if you've enjoyed this content, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, consider subbing to the channel, consider throwing bits, consider super chatting. I appreciate you all. We are going to raid out tomorrow. We're going to have Smeth on, and Smeth thinks that Pixie is a predator.
What?
Pixie thinks that Pixie.
I said let's go, but I
has-
don't agree.
Has even
Pixie,
though
don't be mad at me. I don't agree.
Wait, like Pixie the streamer?
yeah, Pixie
Yeah.
the streamer.
What?
Pixie made a tweet.
Because she posted on her Twitter about wanting
Yeah.
a specific type of man.
and so
And was
Steph
trying
had
to
big
like get her
problems with that.
followers to yeah.
Steph
People
had
can
big
have
problems with that. So we're
preferences,
gonna
it's
talk
fine.
because I have big problems with Smith on this take,
Oh,
and so it'll
dear.
be. An
I'm gonna
interesting
throw
conversation.
hands. I'm
Okay.
coming. I'm
I'm
coming
watching.
uppercut.
Yeah,
I'm
it'll be
watching.
fun. It'll be fun.
Alright.
So
Hitting
that's
uppercuts.
tomorrow.
Excited.
Wednesday, where it's the
I'm here for Pixie.
Wednesday's Republican primary presidential debates. We're going to be covering that again. And then Thursday, we're going to have Short Fat Otaku, Dev, going to be debating Karl Marx on free speech, and that's going to be fun. So, and then Friday, we got 6 p.m. Eastern, we got Allison coming on to tell us about why we are failing the mentally ill.
Uh-oh.
And that'll be fun
Uh-oh.
as well.
Uh-oh.
So for now, though, we're going to rate out. Are any of you on here going to keep streaming after this?
I'm on Twitch. Yep, I'm chilling.
Okay, then I guess we're
I'm
going
still
to that
super
Kit
hungry.
Kat.
Wait,
Let's
Wick, can
go.
you you said tomorrow at what time are you having that
6
conversation with
p.m.
Smith?
Eastern. If you want to
Thank
join
you.
us, you're more than welcome.
I just might.
I just might pop in.
It's
Wait,
it's
Wick,
gonna be
that's
an
so
interesting-
fucked. You didn't even ask Smeth first.
Brittany Simon, I'm a huge fan.
Sorry. Who said that?
I'm honored.
Oh, by the way, I agree with Brittany's smell test. If you smell bad,
True.
I care more about
My
that than
armpits
damn
stink
age.
right now.
True.
My armpits fucking stink.
I'm gonna do you
Yeah,
a
but if
favor
it's
and
Oh,
dip.
boy.
Thanks for having me.
Okay. I love
right.
you all. We're
Thanks,
rating out.
guys. This
Bye
was
bye.
fun.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.